Because you've got powerful legs. How'd you get the physique? Was it gym or how'd you get the physique?
I've always been...
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
That's your knowing or mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing nutters messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump! You know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 516th edition of the Boxing Asylum NUTHOUSE podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings, and joining us on the call we have Rapping Rob Kelly, Andy Patterson and Matty DiGialinardo, going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everybody listening through the week on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice throughout the entire month of March. Nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. Let's get stuck into the action over the weekend. Barely a minute between these fights. We watched as much as we could, I suppose. Only one place to start, though. The MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Nevada, the WBC interim world super middleweight title, was on the line as David Benavidez outpointed K the Plant 115, 113, 116, 112, and 117, 111. No controversy in the main event, scorecards-wise anyway. There was a little bit on the undercard, which we will get to very shortly. Starting off with you tonight, Matty. I thought this was a really good fight, actually. It brought the tension. I was locked in. Benavidez versus Plant, watching from start to finish. No switching off. That says to Wellington that it's a proper fight. When I'm watching, Plant's boxing early, nicely, strategically well, threw a lot of shots off the reset. He's throwing the right punches at the right time. We always knew, Matty, we spoke about this last week. First 6 rounds, he was probably going to look $1 million. That was probably going to be the case. It was the second half of the fight things would have become interesting. Would Plant's gas tank hold up? Would he still be able to box as effectively to the head, to the body, and move in those final rounds, 10, 11, 12, as he did in the first half? By the end of the fight, we got our answers.
We did. And Steve, I just got to say, I'm gonna take Andy's place here for a second, and I'm going to spin real quick here. And those of us who picked Benavidez by stoppage, we got fucked. And I feel bad for Caleb Plant because I kind of felt the last, 4.5 minutes of that fight were pretty fucking unnecessary at the end of the day. But we were fucked by Kenny Bayless. Ooh. Kenny Bayless gave the worst performance of his professional career, in my opinion. This was right up there with the Joe Cortez performance in Mayweather versus Hatton. He showed incredible bias every time he split them up, never warning once Plant for holding, only warning Benavidez for elbows or shouldering or whatever he was doing to try to push Plant away. Taking time to bring Plant over to the doctor when he needed a break, not taking a point away from Plant on a flagrant low blow to start the 9th round. Kenny Bayless used to be one of my favorite referees, and we'll get into the rest of the card. There was a performance from the judges that was pathetic as well on this fight. And let me give credit to the Showtime crew for calling out all instances on this where they messed up, because I think we're coming to a better place in boxing where even here we have an incredible card, great fights up and down, and yet somehow the event is still soured. And the people that do the announcing, that have their jobs related to the sport, are starting to show their anger against this bullshit, this pathetic refereeing with bias, this pathetic judging, because they realize the decline of boxing is directly related to it. So their jobs, their livelihoods are depending on these people giving these folks a fair shake and not making the sport even more difficult to manage than it already is with these prima donnas who don't want to fucking fight. So we finally do get these fights. They're great, and they still find a way to muddy the waters. Kenny Bayless, it's time for you to retire right now, and I have a real big fucking hunch your nest egg got a little bit bigger, motherfucker. So you go ahead and do it.
Here, can I ask, was it just me, or was it just run about the 6th or 7th round that Bayless just all of a sudden started getting involved in that fight? When it seemed like the tide was turning, that Benavidez was starting to land shots, he was getting closer and closer. It seemed to me running about the 6th or the 7th that Bayless was starting to get more busier in that fight. Was it just me?
Nope.
Because Plant was obviously, he was looking good first half, popping, jabbing, moving, rolling under shots, and that he was doing pretty well. Sometimes in the pocket, he obviously took some shots and that as well. But at the same time, when he started getting the range down a little bit, Benavidez, that's when he started to get involved in the fight. It was, I got a note here actually. What was it? The round 8 it was. Benavidez might have broke through a massive right hand I've got written here, and he says Bayless soon involved, Plant using every inch of the ring. Bayless again breaks in fight and calls time out for the cut. I mean, it's a boxing fight at that time. Surely the cut, I mean, if it was bad, I thought the day to start off with the cut was across the bridge of the nose. It wasn't until I seen the lights in between rounds, it was actually running about the top end of the eyebrow somewhere. But no, he got involved in that fight midway when it seemed to be the tide was turning, actually, and I agree with you. That was Hodgson that.
Why do you think he got involved so much, Andy?
Well, I say, with this guy's experience now, with the championship fights this guy's had over the years, he should know better to let the fighters fight. At the end of the day, you've got a lot of riding on it. Why did they not let him do it? I don't know. Benavidez has probably got maybe more upside to him, coming through. Plant's had his day, possibly, you could say. I don't know, mate. It was just Hodgson, that entire performance from that 6th round onwards. He got involved far too much. And as Matty says, we would have got a definitive winner there. Obviously, was a definitive winner, but probably would have got a stoppage kind of late doors. That's where it was kind of heading. You had Plant landing numerous low blows in that as well. I think someone mentioned about before the start of the 12th. I think Breadman had been turning to kind of try and land low shots, possibly.
He did at the beginning of one of the rounds. He came in and punched him in the
Edwards for that.
And I only recall Bayless saying him once about the low blows.
Only the really flagrant one at the 9th. That was the only one, and that was the most flagrant shot I've seen since Hatton's revenge shot on Zoo. Oddly enough, also in the 9th round, I believe that was. It was just absolutely pathetic on that. And I think, Stephen Edwards seems like a really good boxing mind. I like his column, etc. But you're calling for that shit, and then looking at your fighter in that 11th round and sending him back out there, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself, man. Absolutely fucking ashamed of that. I mean, that's a father, there's nothing to be gained at that point in time. You look at it, if he would have got that round, he would have gotten an even round on one Georgia scorecards and still lost the fight. Fucking pointless. He had nothing left that he could potentially fucking stop Benavidez with. And it was, and I hate saying this because it was a great fight. And both guys gave a great account of themselves, but there's still this bad taste about it, and there shouldn't be with such an incredible fight. And Steve, we really called it, man. Like, I mean, Plant controlled it early. Benavidez came on late. The size started to show. But the one thing, Benavidez did have a lower work rate than usual, and it's because Bayless kept him from working in the places that Benavidez likes to work. But he didn't even need it. He's big, he's strong, he punches like a fucking mule, and he knows how to keep that physical pressure on a guy. Something that I saw Zoo developing against Harrison. It was a truly fantastic fight. only marred by the performance of Kenny Bayless at the end of the day, and the concern that I'm sure that many of us had for Plant in the last couple rounds. Like, Jesus fuck, I mean, he was getting battered in there. But a tough son of a bitch, man. Take a break, and I will say it for till the end. I do not want to see Canelo against Dimitri Bivol again. I don't think there's anything else that he can do. But David Benavidez against Canelo Alvarez on a Mexican holiday, fucking sign me up. It's going to be electric, and that's going to be a war. One of the best fights that can be made in boxing. And if they goose step around this one, shame on fucking everybody, because we know it makes money.
It's not going to happen though, next, because I think Canelo's been clear what he's doing next, rather than Bivol. So it's not happening this year.
And what sucks, Andy, and if Canelo goes in and loses to Bivol again, as we expect that he will, sans some fuckery, which is obviously always possible. If he loses again to Bivol, more shine is taken off of this fight. I think, but sure, Canelo and Bivol does decent money and decent business, but I think an all Mexican showdown on a Mexican holiday, man, everybody can drink from that trough, and they're fucking stupid if they avoid it, because that is the kind of fight that boxing needs. Guaranteed action, guaranteed fireworks, and someone's getting fucking hurt in that one, and it needs to happen far more than Bivol against Canelo. Anyhow, Steve.
Yeah, someone's getting hurt. Let's hope so. Matty DiGianardo, intense and emotional on a Sunday evening. Love to see it. Everything a Lawrence Okolie fight isn't. We'll be getting to that very shortly. Don't worry about that, everybody. Rapping Rob Kelly's here with us as well. The big ring favoured Plant. The cut certainly didn't help things. I said last week his face would mark up like Errol Spence reversing over him. It certainly happened anyway. He was holding on for dear life at the end, Rob. Showed bravery, guts, stamina, jabbing and grabbing. Kenny getting involved as well, doing everything he could to avoid being knocked down at the end of the fight. I ask you, Rob, what was the better Caleb Plant performance for you? Benavidez or Canelo?
Well, Canelo stopped him, didn't he? So he hung in there against Benavidez. Probably could have got stopped. I have to admit, I saw a lot of things this weekend because I was in Amsterdam, but the fights weren't one of them. I'm in the airport now on the way home. So you're getting a bit of a relaxed analysis here on the whole situation. I think the two boys, I'm just happy that they're both friends at the end of it.
You're not going to tell us how the fight went, like hater Dave Lowback, Rob? What was your favourite round?
The fight, definitely the 12th. I said to myself, this is warming up now. You dream of nights like this, Steve. I just said I'd jump on really quick. I'm about to board now, when I catches on the flip-flop. I'm going to listen on YouTube, but I'm just waiting on my flight. So have a great night, and I catches next week.
Safe travels, Rob.
Good lad, Rob. There you go. Rob's going to be listening back on YouTube, Boxing Asylum channel later on. Matty, just before we go back to Andy, you mentioned something there about not sending Benavidez out for the 11th and the 12th, etc.
You mean
Plant? Plant, out for the 11th or the 12th, rather. Was that because you felt he hadn't got any chance of a knockout? Or what about the point situation? Because he only lost 115, 113 on one card and 116, 112 on the other. So theoretically, a bit of a second wind, and things were a lot closer than we thought.
Yeah, but it was just the 12th specifically. I guess I could see let him go out for the 11th, but he took a beating in that 11th round, Steve. It was fierce. He was bloodied up. He had nothing on his shots, and the only thing that really was saving him was Kenny Bayless. I mean, because Benavidez was cornering him, tracking him down, and just pummeling the guy. It just seemed pointless, and I know that, it's a tough line to walk, because sometimes we're like, that was the pussy's way out. He should have saw it through and things like that. But this is a much different, I think how the fact that a corner let Caleb Plant go on after the 11th round, and a different corner pulled Jeremias Ponce out of the fight after the 5th round and against Subriel Matias, that's fucking ridiculous. That it's completely juxtaposed to how it should work. It just, I saw no point in that man taking more of a beating. As disappointed as I was through him with that fight, because believe me, those negative tactics, as tough as he is, as much as he tried, those negative tactics did start to wear on me a little bit throughout the fight, to where, as much as I was impressed with him, I don't necessarily know that his Caleb Plant's stock went up with me over this weekend. I mean, maybe in toughness, but I just he was glad to go in there and spoil. He negotiated for that 22-foot ring. And it was what it was. But Benavidez is fantastic, and I sure hope he gets a shot at Canelo. He's earned it. He's a good young fighter. He's gotten himself clean, and he's truly a bad son of a bitch. There's a reason they're calling him the Mexican Monster now. He's a vicious fucker, and if he can't get that action, I'd like to see what might happen if he can go up to 175, because he obviously has the frame for it. And if Canelo sidesteps him somehow, and there's a way that Benavidez can somehow get a shot at Bivol in there, that would be fun, because if he can somehow topple Bivol, that's a big machismo fuck you to Canelo.
Absolutely. Is it the toughness, Andy? I mean, Michael Thompson's throwing in a super chat there. Shout out to him. He says, "What's the missing piece to Plant's game? Is it the toughness? Is it the gas tank? Is it the lack of power? I mean, what is that missing puzzle piece?"
Well, I don't think it's a lack of toughness. I think he showed that down the stretch here last night. I kind of agree. I see where Matt is coming from, to be fair. In that. I mean, he did take a bit of pummeling around about the 10th. And that, again, you got Bayless involved. Plant's trying to dig deep. I think there was one instance, I think I can recall him having a dig deep moment around about the 9th. I think he kind of let go a couple of combinations. And then obviously the 12th, he's trying to swing shots and that as well, showing a bit of heart. But he just struggled with the pace down the stretch. So I think ultimately, just answer Michael's question, possibly it is a gas tank, but also as well just that wee bit of power as well. That he could actually just turn the fight, or just turn Benavidez' thinking about walking forward, because everything, according to Benavidez at least, that he was never bothered or touched up by any shots. And obviously you had that moment late in the fight. He got caught with I think it was a big left hook, Khalid Plant, and then obviously he wrestled and they kind of felt the floor, that type of thing. If he just managed to kind of just so much kind of get tied up with him, but then obviously maybe just tee off from him at that point, maybe kind of got the stoppage in. But Bayless was obviously involved in that instances as well. And that, so again, he toughed it out. Probably it is again the gas tank. Just maybe just not got that game changing power in that as well. Even though what he did to Darrell, end of the day, it's just nothing really that was going to give that guy problems. And you look at his face and that as well, Benavidez, it looked like he hadn't really been in a fight, really, to be fair. So probably that as well. So I would say probably the gas tank, but also a wee bit of kind of game-changing power as well, possibly.
Matty, talking about stylistic issues, Benavidez didn't really jab as much as I expected. He only started touching the body late on. He did look a little bit clumsy at times, but I suppose he's such a big guy. That brute strength, the relentless aggression came through in the end. We all know that this fight's been years in the making. I think the dislike was genuine. It wasn't like a sort of Eddie Hearn fake beef. These two didn't like each other. But the question for you is, Matty, how much has Benavidez improved since the Rick Reveal fight? And more to the point, has he improved enough to beat Canelo? And a version of Canelo who isn't the same fighter, I think we'll all agree, as the man of yesteryear?
As far as the Canelo part, I think that's a little bit more in depth. And I think there's still a lot that Benavidez does that goes right into Canelo's wheelhouse. It's just one of those things, like, for me, Benavidez, he does have a lot of good punches. He knows how to tire you down the stretch. He's showing that he's found a way to really utilize his gas tank at the best and be that increasing pressure fighter. That train, it just keeps moving. And once it gets moving, you're not going to stop that thing. The Joe Joyces of the world, right? And to say where I think he's at, I guess I could make that short and sweet. I think that David Benavidez is everything that the Mexican fans wish Jaime Munguia was.
Yeah. Hearn talking about Munguia fighting Dimitri Bivol this week, but I don't think that's going to happen. Andy, you're mentioning there in the comments, it's more Benavidez is a light heavyweight boiling down. We have a question from Dominic regarding that, but just looking at the picture there, it looks like they've dug up the body of Salvador Sanchez, doesn't it? He doesn't look great at the weight.
Well, it was more kind of, I just said that to Michael Thompson. I think he was just trying to pick up his comment there. I think it was more, he was asking about the kind of physicality. That was Matt Butler's. Plant looked like someone took a baseball bat to him. That wasn't that. Somebody mentioned about Plant's lack of physicality, but it was more to the point, as you say, Benavidez coming in from one side. He's more a legit 175. Look at him there. I mean, when I seen that weigh in, I think it was 163 3/4. I thought he cooked the gas a wee bit there. When you hear a fighter who's big as him at the weight coming out just almost 2 pounds under the weight, you think he's cooked that a little bit there, and you just wonder if it's going to have a negative effect. And he always looks like this at weigh-ins. I've seen him worse, mind you, to be fair. His skin kind of changes that kind of grey colour. He's drawing about the face and the eyes kind of popping out and that. It just doesn't look, and he looks like he doesn't kind of hydrate well as well, to be fair. But, fair play to him. He still keeps a good pace going. Obviously, the power must be really heavy in that as well, if it's carrying late into fights and that as well. So I just thought it'd be interesting to mention that really, for as good as what he is at 168 and as strong as what he is, it's a day of reckoning for me for him up at 175. I mean, can you imagine if that was Beterbiev's jab that he was meeting there last night? The manner what Plant was throwing it in that as well. It would be a different ball game, I think, entirely. Obviously, as well, it would be interesting to see what he'd be like at 175. But I just thought it was going to worth mentioning that because Plant's more a legit 168, whereas Benavidez is more like 175.
They are on the screen. Andy, get stuck into it if you want to. Dominic Henry threw in the question, as good a place as any to ask it. What chance would David Benavidez stand against Benavidez at 175?
I think it's a violent fight. Just bring Matt in at the same time. I think obviously Beterbiev with ramrod jab. I think with the way that Benavidez attacks, he does come in kind of straightforward sometimes. He does let in those well shots. I think if Beterbiev punches in between those shots, I think he's got a great chance, especially if he can time it to head and body and that. That we've all heard about the jabs, like, mate. That's like a shotgun going off, and I think once we get past 7-8 rounds, I think that's going to be where it's, because obviously Benavidez takes a wee bit of time to get into fights. So does Beterbiev a wee bit in that as well, but he seems to kind of get the jab going. He doesn't waste a shot. We know Beterbiev, whereas Benavidez might just sell out a little bit and try and lay it on him a little bit. I wouldn't underestimate the Beterbiev as well, because we all know he's a vicious guy once he gets the heat put on him, and he saw what happens when he gets cut on that as well. The red mist comes down, he goes to action. So it's an interesting one. I would probably side with Beterbiev at this point, to be fair.
Yeah, James G. Just quickly, Matty says I'd ignore the gravel fight and surround that time he was on the piss and sniffing coke all the time, according to himself. Now he's had a kid and he's settled. He's better. I think that's a fair comment. But what about Beterbiev? Beterbiev is starting to show signs of wear and tear. I tell you what, it'd be a bloody affair anyway.
It would be, and you got to think that Yard even in defeat showed that you can hang in there and throw some power punches against Beterbiev, and give him some trouble. And I think the fact that Benavidez has better foot speed than Beterbiev could actually matter, because that fight could be just fought at close distance the whole time. And I think it's just a matter of, at the end of the day, of how Benavidez can take the shots of Artur. Because I do think that he has the potential again down the stretch to just really wear out just about anybody and bludgeon them down, tough as Artur Beterbiev is. But nonetheless, it's like Andy said, you got to kind of side with Artur on that one. But I just got this lean towards Benavidez on this one. I think he's one of those rare, really good pressure fighters, and you got to think he's got a good chin on him, Steve. I mean, Plant landed some good shots there. He landed a left hook or two that were just as good as the one that he landed on Anthony Durrell, and didn't fucking matter to Benavidez one goddamn bit. Didn't bug him.
More importantly, Matty, what do you think about Benavidez's hair? Have you ever considered going for the cornrows or the dreadlock look?
I tried to cornrow my hair once, but my hair is just too fine to make it happen, unfortunately.
There you go. Revelations on a Sunday evening. Mark Stanton as well said Sky need to get Bean out to prison and back on their shows. I was
thinking about him last night.
I agree, Andy, man. I didn't think I would ever say this, but fucking get Bean back, man, for fuck's sake.
I was actually thinking about him last night. I was flipping between that and the BT cards. I was saying, where is Bean actually? It's been a long time since he's been MIA, isn't it? Obviously, there's rumours abound, but
he's in prison, isn't he? Betting for shower gel and toothpaste.
Well, I suppose, but can you imagine Bean trying to sell that main event there last night, man, on Sky? Come on, now. Oh man, it would be his deplorable best. You know,
he's in strange ways smuggling links up his arsehole. Sorry, everybody, for
Good
that,
type of links.
that image. Right, okay. We'll go to the chat shortly and have a look, see who's hanging around. Before we do that, Matty, let's go on to the undercard, starting with, at your request, I'll lead you in with a bit of a lengthy one here because I have a few notes on this fight, actually. Chris
Colbert,
Colbert, against Rayo Valenzuela. My initial feelings at the time, Matty, watching this in real time, well, this morning, as if it was live, was that it was a bullshit decision. How on earth did they come to that conclusion? It was embarrassing listening to Colbert trying to justify it at the end. I thought he was hurt numerous times. He got dropped early on. His eye was closing up, his left eye. I know there's something to be said for slick boxing, but surely you've got to take into account the person who is hurting the other guy time and time again. However, this was not necessarily everybody's take. They're playing devil's advocate. Respected pundit Matt Butters scored it 95-94 to Colbert. So I ask you, Matty, take away the big moments. Is it possible that whenever Colbert wasn't getting busted up, whenever he wasn't on the verge of being stopped, he was actually winning rounds? He was actually scoring points. Therefore, can we make a case for this scorecard?
I thought, Steve, at best you could give Colbert 4 rounds, which would make it 96-93 for Valenzuela. That those 3 judges all with the same card. Absolutely ridiculous. And I'll just get out of the way. The only thing that you can criticize Valenzuela for is playing with his food. Okay? That's the only thing you can really criticize him for at the end of the day. But those 3 judges were awful. And I fucking hate saying these things because obviously we have connections. We're not even going to get into it. But I'm absurdly disappointed with it. And a couple of judges been around a very, very long time. One of them used to actually put in very strong scorecards 99% of the time. Just getting weaker and weaker all the time. And I can't figure the fuck out how they were able to get Chris Colbert with not even 6 rounds. There's not 6 rounds that I could find. I think that there was maybe 1 or 2 swingy rounds in there, but I thought that at the end of the day that Valenzuela had 5 clear rounds in his pocket plus a knockdown that should have gotten him clear fucking regardless. And going back to the previous fight in Kenny Bayless, and it's just this thing, and you can't, and I hate saying this shit because it sounds so fucked up. Steve, I just watched a fantastic documentary on Netflix, okay? And I highly recommend all sports fans to watch this, whether you like basketball or not, okay? And it's called Untold, Operation Flagrant Foul. And it's the story of an NBA ref named Tim Donaghy. And Tim
I remember him.
So Tim, and this was only ended about 15, 17 years ago, Steve. So this isn't like, in the long distant past. So he got involved with some heavy level gamblers. And he said that him and apparently a couple of other referees in any given game, just based on what they call, can move the game 6 points either direction. Think about it in the realm of a spread when they call these things really, really well. And something like Valenzuela Colbert was a pick'em fight in the books, with Valenzuela starting a slight underdog and moving closer towards fight time. And you look at what Kenny Bayless did there. You look at what is going on with some of these judges in these iffy fights. That idea of, in my position, I can move the fight just a little bit more. The over-under is 8.5 rounds. I can get it over that hump. This is going to be a pretty close fight. I can get you a couple of cards. You know, there's obviously a line, but sport is set up in a way where corruption is easy as fuck to get away with on the lowest level, because it doesn't take a whole lot for these guys to change things a little bit. Not make it sometimes where it's decided between winners or losers, but just how long a fight goes and things like that. So my take on this whole fucking card right now is something is very smelly in Vegas right now, and they better fix it, because the sport is depending on you to do it, because we can't have this shit. That Valenzuela kid, he was a wreck after that, and Colbert is a fucking punk. I gained so much respect for him during the course of the fight, just for fighting through what he couldn't against Hector Garcia, only for him after the fight to lose all that respect. Fuck Chris Colbert. I hope he gets his shit fucking pushed in next time. Fuck him. Valenzuela, he just played with his food a little too much. He could have taken it out of the judge's hands, I think, but he didn't. And it was just ridiculous. This card just reeks of something super fucking fishy in little areas. Not the whole thing. It's not the whole picture. It's just a few little people who are willing to play along. So that's my thought.
Las Vegas, stinking of fish. And it's not just in the red light district,
Plenty
Andy.
of
Andrew
it.
Thicket says Valenzuela, a poor man's catch-all. What's done is done. That's an interesting comment. I thought that it actually resembled the Hector Luis Garcia fight in parts. Maybe that's just Colbert's demeanour. At the end of the day, Colbert needs to be protected from himself because I think he takes a lot of shots. He's very brave. I mean, there's no doubt in his bollocks, but he's too vulnerable to trouble the top guys. I mean, I'm not sure where his place is in boxing, which is weird given the fact that he won the fight. Where's Chris Colbert going? Because you serve him up against anybody half decent, he's going to get hurt.
Well, he's not going to be. Personally, I don't think anyway he's going to be a world champion again if he did ever pick up one of those fake belts.
I rated him too, Andy. I thought he was really good on the way up.
Well, I don't know what episode it was, but I remember us talking about him very early on in his career, and I'd mentioned that he was part of some documentary.
Yes, that's right.
Following some kind of, obviously they're coming up through the just early part of the pro careers. And he was a base sparring. I think it was Juan Carlos Revecchio or maybe Juan Carlos Payano, with one of the super flyweight champs at that time. And they were hard seasoned vets, and he got his shit pushed in sparring. And there was question marks about his mentality, his lifestyle, making weight, eating shit, that Floyd Mayweather lifestyle, but just not putting in the same effort. Then obviously he took that L, and then there last night, as you said, he was when he got landed with big shots, he felt every fucking one of them. I thought when that first round, I thought he was out when I seen the way he took that shot, the way the head whipped round, and the way he fell. I thought, Christ, that's him. He's out. I just personally think there is something fishy. I think that it could be heavily influenced by a possible reality that Colbert was facing a second loss, and with a badly damaged his career. I don't know if he's got, if they're kind of like looking toward him as some sort of, I don't know, card filler, future champ. I really don't know what it is at this point. There's people obviously out there protecting their investments somewhere along the line because, to me at least, I think the absolute you could give that is probably 2 points. I had Valenzuela win the fight. Colbert, his attitude afterwards the fight, mate, I tell you what, Valenzuela standing there just kind of listening to that bullshit and that as well, and then the wee kind of racist epithet which kind of put in there as well by Colbert. I'm like, fuck you, man. Absolutely fuck you. You'll get your day again at some point. Felt sorry for Valenzuela, man. End of the day, you could say that the decision wasn't agreed upon, right? Well, maybe it was agreed upon beforehand. And people say, well, he should have taken it out of the hands of the judges. But at the same time, that doesn't change the fact that the boy won the fight. It's like that Michael Fox, remember he fought, I can't mind who, it was an Ecuadorian or a Mexican, I forget who it was at this point. And another kind of hometown, he got hosed on the cards. This shit has just got to stop, man. We'll see who won the fight. I wouldn't say it was an absolute wide win, but there's absolutely no way. What was the scorecards again? There's no way that Colbert won that fight.
95-94.
95-94. No.
Even Jim Gray called it out. And he went through his whole thing at the end, and that's why I'm saying these guys are starting to get pissed off because they know their job's online. Fair play to Teddy Atlas. He was always very, very upfront with it. But does Teddy have a job on a network anymore?
No. Jim Gray only said it when Colbert left the ring, though.
No, he had to get his interview out of the way. There is that journalistic integrity of not giving your position away before you ask your questions. And then when you get done, you get the piece, then you can say where you stand. I respect that. It's very reasonable when it comes to trying to conduct an interview. I respect how you came about it.
Maybe Valenzuela was just a bit kind of wary after what happened to him in his last fight. Obviously he was hurting Colbert, didn't want to overstep himself and get caught with something. Maybe a wee bit of mental issue there as well. Maybe he just didn't want to get clocked with anything. Maybe he was kind of worried about the chin. But Colbert isn't known as a big hitter at the end of the day in that as well. I take the guy's point in the chat that he should, end off. He should have stepped in the end of the fight. It's all well saying that.
Well, you see, against De Los Santos, he did that, didn't he? Hurt him in the first round, dropped him, and then he ended up going balls to the wall and getting stopped. Yeah,
sold out and then got stopped. And you maybe learned from that. Maybe see like, okay, I'll pick away at him. He has to think to himself there. Look, I'm beating this guy. I'm hurting him every time I throw it. I'm landing something heavy on him. I'm hurting him, visibly showing it as well. I've dropped his ass. I've hurt him numerous times in the fight.
Well, where does the things like punch power and all that come into it? Because I always remember years ago, Phil Sutcliffe was fighting a guy, I think it was Chris Jenkins actually, or Craig Evans, one of those ubiquitous Welsh fighters who used to turn up in Belfast. And afterwards, a lot of people thought at ringside, Andy, that Jenkins had won the fight. But the referee, I think it was Hugh Russell or Eamon McGill, one of them scored it in Sutcliffe's favour. And afterwards he said, the reason why he did it was because even though Jenkins was doing a lot of work, he said Sutcliffe was just hitting him with such hard shots. You could hear them thudding time and again. And he, that was the basis for it. So I wonder whether the sort of power, the punching power, does that kind of, it's the age-old scoring debate,
It's the effective punching at the end of the day, and I think that's what it comes down to. If you're a technique, but just take Plant for example, you need if you're boxing like that for 12 rounds and you've got a guy walking you down in that, you need to have something to kind of back him up. But if you've got a guy who can throw heavy shots and you can hear it, you can visibly see a reaction like the fighter or the opponent dropping the hands, backing off, taking a knee, whatever it is, it's you're going to go with the guy with effective punches at the end of the day. Obviously you got to kind of like give the box on that as well as due, but it's effective punching, effective aggressiveness, ring generalship, and solid defense. But I think the solid punches and effective punches, effective aggression was coming from Valenzuela. Definitely, to me, it won the fight. Okay, maybe the crowd was pro Venezuela or whatever it is, but I've yet to see, apart maybe just people on the troll, maybe a handful of people saying that Colbert won that fight by a couple of points.
Oh, they're full of shit. I see people in the chat, man. They're just full of shit. Go back and watch that fight, and there are 5 rounds where Chris Colbert has no argument that he won that round, and one of them he got put on his ass. The other one, he could have scored the round where he kept fucking dabbing at his eye 10-8. He was getting fucking walloped around that fucking ring that round. Fuck Chris Colbert. The ref said multiple times in that round, show me something, Chris. Pathetic fucking decision. And like, I love y'all very, very much, but Jesus Christ.
No way to do. I see is it Rocky Rodriguez in the chat saying I'm not trolling. Rail won 4 rounds only.
He's putting his point of view across respectfully, to be fair.
Bring him on and let him explain it though.
If he wants
he won 4 rounds of the first 7. What about the last 3? You give them all to Colbert?
Yeah. There we go. Well, that's what happens. It's different opinions, everybody. Let's go on to Jesus Ramos against Joey Spencer in the next one. Talking to people taking L's, Matty. I got this one badly wrong, man. First of all, I looked at them coming out the first few seconds and the size difference. It was crazy. I was like, oh my God, there's no chance in hell Joey Spencer's going to win this fight. What was I thinking, man? He looks absolutely tiny. I overthought the fight because I liked Ramos as a prospect. I thought he looked good. I was never really fussed with Spencer.
He didn't look this filled out against Santa Maria, did he, Steve? He didn't look this built, did he?
I think it must be because of Spencer moving up in weight. The conventional wisdom said to me that Ramos didn't look great against Santa Maria. Spencer looked really good against Salgado. So I tried a little cheeky pick for Spencer on points, but it just became quickly apparent when he was dropped with that short left hand. I think it was in the first round. I'd badly messed up here. The size differential, Spencer's going to have to try and drag his ass down. I know he said he was struggling with the weight below, but he is way too small for this weight. And Ramos, I'm back on the hype train. I thought he looked like an absolute beast, but it could have been a Styles make fights, Matty, but he just beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, there's some things, about Ramos that you could get on him with. He could be outworked the way he holds his guard and stuff, such like that. And it's tough to tell when you just dominate over someone so much. But he looked fucking beastly at the weight. He's really filled in 154 well. Obviously, Charlo and Zoo have to get it on. Steve, in a perfect world, maybe they would give us Ramos against Fundora on that undercard with the winners to meet, right? Maybe in some perfect world. I think that's a hell of a freaking fight right there, my friend. Obviously, Fundora has to get by Mendoza. But as far as it goes, yeah, it was interesting. This fight was seen as much closer with the books than the Cody Crowley against the Elder Ramos was, and that one ended up being much closer down the stretch actually. So it was I tell you what, this was the one fight that was kind of a blowout in the entire card. And it wasn't based on how things saw it, because even odds makers thought it was a reasonably close fight. And out of everything they swung at, this was the only one-sided beatdown of the bunch, where it wasn't competitive with moments at times. And if it wasn't for Spencer's heart, man, it would have been a much shorter night, because a lot of other guys would have succumbed after 2 or 3 rounds of that shit.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Shout out to Danny Young. He says, I had Ramos KO. Come follow me, lads. Follow him to the top of the prediction league. He's doing bits, says Danny, at the moment. He's reigning supreme as the current king. Spencer, he looked a bit like Scott Quigg, and he fought a bit like Quigg as well. Hands up. Ramos was just scything away, hooks from both hands. Clearly a big puncher. He's going to be a problem for anybody. As Matty said there, Spencer showed a lot of toughness, but he's just shipping too many shots. And I think it was around the 5th round, I thought, you know what, Spencer's outgunned here. It was starting to look a little bit uncomfortable. Only his heart keeping him in it. I was glad when they stopped it in the end. Andy, I know you only saw bits and pieces of Cody Crowley against the other Ramos. Quick point to you on the TV replay in round 11. I don't think it disrupted anything. A few people were discussing this. It happened in between rounds. They got the right conclusion. I don't think that it was a knockdown. His gloves didn't touch the canvas, even though his arse went down a little bit. I think I was happy enough with that, the way they handled it. I thought it was quite a smooth transition.
Yeah, they ended up taking the point back, didn't they?
Must have done, yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, because obviously between the round, I nipped away to do something, come back, and then they were talking about it, obviously, and I missed in between round, and obviously they've been talking about it, so I didn't really kind of catch up on it. So that was good that they actually done it smooth, as you said. You wouldn't really notice that. Actually, if you were sitting there drunk, you would have noticed anyway. Put it that way. It was okay fight for what I seen of it. I thought Crawley just smothered Ramos, just timing again. Actually, he's going to be a tough out for anybody. Actually, obviously he got marked up a little bit, and he's got deficiency in that regard in terms of how he fights. He's going to get caught with some shots. Ramos obviously showing his experience a wee bit, remaining calm, done his best as what he could in that. But Crawley was just nailing him with body shots and uppercuts and that. So fair play to him. He's pounded it through and that. I think maybe it's just his kind of lack of power in that, possibly in that as well. It's if he could maybe just get a few knockouts, or if he had that KO ability, he'd be a formidable force actually, especially with that output that he's got. So was that was an eliminator? Was it wasn't UGAS? Who was it for again?
IBF. So I suppose he's closing in on Spence, isn't he?
Was it right?
Yeah.
Someone mentioned throwing Crowley in against Boots, and God love Crowley. I think that's a bad style matchup for him. I just think he has a tendency to kind of lean and sit there, and Ramos picked him off a bit there, and I could see Boots
flick the jab and lean forward.
Yeah, and I think I just kind of see Boots landing just a nice 45 and separating him from his fucking consciousness. I got all love to Cody Crowley, but fucking if he goes into Boots, he might have a temporary reunion with his parents.
Oh, what a lovely image. So good luck to him, I suppose, at the end of the day. Matty, just quickly there, M. Lithgow. That's Martin Lithgow. He signed up with us over at patreon.com/Boxing Asylum this week. He's asking about the Boxing Nutters Prediction League. Any updates for anybody who's wishing to join?
Yeah, so that is going to be this week is the last week of predictions for the first portion of this year. So the new season is going to start with picks next week, and what you're going to need to do with that is you're going to need to, number one, be a member of our Patreon, at which point Steve will give you access to our WhatsApp group, and from there we will get you the directions through the group and get your predictions from there. You'll get all the information once you're in there. But yeah, you got to be a Patreon. You got to be in the messenger group, and from there, we'll take care of it. And it looks to be a mighty fine pot this year. And I do believe the Nutters are a fine group of gentlemen and lady. Can't forget Holly, who's doing very well in the league, might I say. But I do think that they're all going to pay up and be faithful to their oath. And that's all we ask is that you pay up to the person who wins the league at the end of the year on your own volition. And if you do as much, you'll be able to come and participate in the next season. And we've been having a great time. And there's some guys that, man, Steve, I tell you what, I don't know why we're here. They should be the ones giving boxing predictions. We fucking suck.
Excuse me. Winner of the prediction league last year, you're talking to, Matty?
Yes, Steve, but then we increased the number of people that were in the prediction league, and all of a sudden you're no longer the champion.
Oh, come on. They only increased it by about 8 or 9.
Is it? Well, that's yeah. Well, I'm in there. We all knew I was going to be donating 10. But yeah, it's a good time in there. But remember, you want to be part of that. It's basically kind of like the way that the Americans do fantasy football leagues. Except we got stuff going on every single week, and you don't have to wait for 162 games of fucking bullshit and rainy games and crap to get through it with baseball. So,
yep, well said, Matty. Des says the WhatsApp group is a game changer. No understatement there from Des. Right, you are listening to episode 516 of the Boxing Asylum NUTHOUSE podcast. Rapping Rob Kelly's been on, giving his fantastic assessment. Matty's still here with us, so is Andy. Alongside me, Steve. Let's flush the toilet of the chat and see who floats to the top. Dr. FMG's in there. Welcome to you, sir, all the way from Australia. Matt Slippery Butters giving predictions is in the chat as well. So is Harvey Price Boxing Returns. Michael Thompson's thrown in the solo super chat tonight. If you want to join in, feel free. Mark Stanton's there as well. M. Lithgow 1983. Yeah, if you want to wake up to 500 notifications in the morning and get in the WhatsApp group, that's the best thing for you.
Just click your ads and then go straight to the bottom, and then if you see something interesting, you can follow the fucking clicks up the fucking way. Sometimes it's good to do that, and sometimes you'll regret it because you'll either be disturbed or be like, "The fuck just happened to 30 minutes of my life? Where am I?" Good group, great group though, great group.
Good group of lads. Des, Yimmy Yappy's there as well in the chat tonight. Jim McDonald Boxing 2.0. Who else have we got? Let's have a look. I know we had Rocky Rodriguez hanging around. You're very welcome. Not a name I am familiar with. MB's here as well. Joey Chaz says OKOLIE is trash. We can agree with that. We'll be getting onto that fight shortly. Andrew Thickett is always watching on Facebook as well. Shout out to him. Shout out to Johnny as well. Just flicking up here, scrolling, see who else is hanging around. Clouds Gaming, Danny Young, of course, at top of the prediction league. Who else have we got? Let's see if there's any new names. Harvey Price Boxing Returns. I think I already mentioned him. Number one is in the chat. Final couple as well before we move on to the next fights. Sonny D. That's Teacher Sonny D. Shout out to Sonny. Always good for a chat over on LinkedIn. Are you on LinkedIn, Matty?
No, I wouldn't want people to find more ways to contact me in this world.
Oh, there we are. Right, okay, yeah. Shout out to Michael Thompson as well, just at the end there. Let's move on to the action. Oh, Kevin Sutherland is dropping in. Evening all, says Kevin. Absolutely, can endorse that. He's a member of the WhatsApp group as well, is Kevin.
I think
right,
Kevin
let's get...
Sutherland was a PGA golf professional too. I wonder if they're the same Kevin Sutherland.
Probably. What's he going to do with himself after retirement and hang around with the likes of us, Matty? That's the question.
What else would you do with your money other than give it to Steve to be part of the Patreon?
Exactly. Join us, patreon.com/boxing asylum. There's plenty in there for you. A lot of stuff we can't mention in here as well, but it's well worth your while. I'll say that much. Right, let's move on to things that weren't worth your while. Matchmaker, Al Siesta. Love a bit of Al Siesta. He's a good guy. I haven't heard from him in a while. I am, of course, talking about the Manchester Arena. No bombings going on there. Andy, Ben Shalom is the promoter. Lawrence OKOLIE against David Light. I didn't see any of the undercard because I was out busy. I asked in the Boxing Nutters Messenger group, Andy, what's worse? Watching Lawrence OKOLIE fight or listening to boring Ben Shalom talking about Lawrence OKOLIE fighting?
Well, mate, thankfully I never heard either of them because I went to my bed early, as I say, hoping to get up to see the main event in America, and I slept through it. So thankfully, by the sounds of it, I actually did the right thing. Missed Lawrence OKOLIE, and Uncle Frank still had 3 fights to show on his card. So it was like midnight before the BT card finished. I said, fuck this shit, man, I'm too old. So I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock, and I slept through my alarm. So lo and behold, here we are. I did catch a couple of fights undercard though. Just talking about bad decisions. Firstly, just mentioning Michael Gomez Jr. against Levi Giles. Fuck me, man. What a detestable prick that Gomez is. But anyways, 97-94. Michael Gomez on one card. I think it was, no, 2 cards, sorry. 97-93, 97-94. And yeah, Giles getting 96-95. A wee bit like Planet, I suppose, doing a lot of it off the back foot. Good jab. Using the ring as such. And that obviously Gomez was having these moments where he was picking moments and that he was getting his body shots in. But it was hard to find. It was a 10-rounder. It was really hard to find, giving them 97-93. Fucking disgraceful scorecards. Anyways, Fraser Clark beat that Bogdan Dinu, one of Rob's best fighters, favourite fighters. I think it was a body shot he caught him with, and he felt it, and he's obviously complaining in the corner saying he can't continue. It was awful, mate. I've seen bits of that Carice, is it Artingstall, I think her name's pronounced. She kind of had her own way, the kind of whole fight and that. I was flipping between that and the BT card at the same time, mate. So, yeah, it wasn't great. And for what I was hearing about Lawrence Okolie, the least said about it, the better, or the least time spent on it, the better, actually, because apparently it would bring tear to a glass eye.
Well, Ad Cantor on Twitter, Andy, says the zone should use Lawrence Okolie no longer appearing on there as a selling point. And I know it's quite a bit of a humorous comment, but seriously, why on earth a boxer and Sky?
Kind of like Chinese restaurants when they took MSG out, big sign out front now without Okolie.
Exactly. Now lacking Okolie. Why on earth would Sky and Boxing then be so desperate to take him off his hands, off Eddie's hands? And I suppose Eddie's laughing now he managed to get rid of him. Is it because he's a name, a star, an Olympian? Why is Sky desperate to put this shit on a Saturday night?
I don't know, mate. Maybe they're just they're trying to get
scrambling for names. I think these days, aren't they? Everybody.
Plus, he's got a world title as such, so they can market that as well. But I've never watched a stitch yet. I have no intention going back to try and watch it. So I think the comments say it all, mate. At the end of the day, we all know what he was like. He had a couple of fights and that as well, where he looked pretty okay for a guy that size. And that, you know, is he packing glass? Is he hiding something? Is this why he's so negative? I don't know what it is, mate. To be fair.
They need to put him in with React, but they need to find a way to make that.
Well, I suppose
clean it up.
I think we say as well. There's not many people at cruiserweight who might even beat him. That said, it'd be fucking boring to watch him at the same time. But trying who the champs are at this point. You know,
you got Opataya. I know FMG's high on him. I was impressed with his performance against Brady's, but I need to see the Wellington body of evidence just to see if he is the real deal. But I like what I see so far.
He's a big physical guy, very strong. I mean, that Samoan build. I don't know that he'd let Okolie just fucking grab him.
Well, that's the thing. You've got to find a way around it. It's a bit like a sort of bigger Devin Haney. He has attributes. That's the thing, hasn't he? The long arms, the grab. He just grabs hold on for dear life. No referee seems to stop it. Maybe Kenny Bayless needs to be drafted in or something. He knows how to win. He's boring. He holds it hiding glass. He's with Sugar Hill. They can't seem to find a way of him throwing his shots. He's going to be very, very difficult to beat.
Well, I haven't even seen this fight, Steve, but without seeing it, I've seen it all, right? It's fair play to Light for making it the distance. I think everybody kind of thought he was going to get beat up pretty badly in there, and it doesn't sound like that was the case whatsoever. I think you have to give fair play to God damn it, why am I forgetting his name right now? Who Light just fought before?
Glanton.
Yeah, Glanton, who was able to drop Light in 10 rounds. So you got to give him some credit on that one. It's just, I don't know, man. I think William Smith has improved since his first fight with React 4. And I think between the three of them, you just kind of got to clean it up, kind of what happened, in the Hey Macronelli era, and just get done with it. And it would be nice to see somebody who has the ability to force Okolie to really fight and doesn't give him the opportunity to just clinch.
Yeah, Michael Thompson says Okolie has regressed. Yet another example of a fighter looking worse after leaving Shane. That was the impression I got last night. I thought whenever he hooked up with McGuigan, he seemed to be letting his shots go. I thought this was going to be the more offensive version. The asking fight was in the background now. We could forget about the Chamberlain fight, and this was going to be the new 2.0 version. And he would have the holding, the clinching in his locker if he needed it. The Henry Akin won the octopus arms, but he sort of reverted to that. He seemed very negative, very defensive. He seemed like he was away with the fairies in the corner. Sugar Hill was trying to give him instructions. He wasn't really looking at him. You had that fellow with the spot on his nose at ringside talking in a sort of faux American accent saying, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that. I just thought it was boring and people just start walking out. They're not going to be able to want to watch that, really. So Eddie done himself a favour getting rid of him. Right, we've spent long enough talking about that. What about Ramirez on ESPN, Matty? I'm assuming you saw that one. I was only half watching it. There was so much over the weekend. I saw Ramirez coming out fast, nice crowd. They seemed to be enjoying themselves. He was getting the left hook off. And then Comey seemed to adjust a little bit, showed a few elements to his game. He was throwing the jab, landing a few right hands, and then Ramirez caught up with him. I'm not sure. I didn't watch the replay as to what he landed first to kind of hurt him, but it was definitely a quality body shot that finished him off in the end.
Yeah, it was a good fight. And the first few rounds, Ramirez came in there hot, thinking that he was going to be able to just dispatch of Comey the way that Lopez did. And he wasn't able to quite do that. And I think he kind of burned himself up early on. And at that point, Comey was able to kind of stabilize himself. And he had some moments in there, man. He was landing some damn good right hands. He definitely won some rounds in there. And Ramirez was looking like he was fading. It was a little bit of a surprise when that happened. Because, I mean, he landed a good shot and then an uppercut that was able to take Comey off of his feet and then, finished it off. He was falling around and it just obviously Comey was depleted and Ramirez landed a good body shot and Comey was just done. He got up right after the 10 count. Obviously it was just, and I mean, respect to him. I think that was 10th or 11th round. It had gone quite a bit. So Comey obviously done at the top level. They're talking about maybe Ramirez against Zepeda again. I guess we can talk about that Zepeda fight if we have to, since they're kind of connected, Steve. That Zepeda against Goyat fight was one of the most fucking awful things I've ever been subjected to in my entire life. It was an incredibly small ring, but Zepeda just had no bounce to him, really. I mean, so you can't hold all of it against Goyat, I guess, because that was about as flat as I have ever seen Zepeda look. There's just something missing. There was no, just jumping his step or anything like that. But Goyat, what a fucking cunt this guy is. I mean, Jesus Christ, fucking clown shoe central, this son of a bitch. It just does absolutely fucking nothing. Just clowns around, raises his hands over his head like he's the fucking champion of the fucking world or some shit like that. I look at his record and I see that he's like knocked 7 people out in his career and he's somehow beat fucking Kanzu 20 pounds and fucking 20 fights ago or 10 fights ago, whatever.
His nickname's #gangster, Matty.
Fucking Jesus Christ. Gangster, fucking, he ain't no gangster. He's a fucking wankster. I wish Rob was here for that. Fucking, he knows the fucking the reference there. Jesus Christ, man, it was such a fucking awful thing to watch, and I can't believe I kept thinking I should have just gone. I didn't want to spoil it, like going to boxing scene and seeing results or anything like that, thinking, oh, maybe, he probably knocked him out at some point. But I should have, just so I didn't watch the whole fucking thing, because it was 10 rounds of absolute fucking bullshit. And I can't believe that I wasted my life at it, doing that, let alone that was the end of my boxing viewing last night. I was doing this at 1:30 in the morning, Steve, after watching boxing since 6 p.m. I didn't watch it early. That's why I missed the OKOLIE card. I actually went to the theater. Lovely place, 1776 with an all-female cast. Very enjoyable. But nonetheless, I just absolutely
vibes there. By
it's like being on acid with him. We've gone from fucking Ramirez to an Indian dancing around to fucking theater.
This is the way that my fucking day ended. But to finish off the connection with Zepeda and Ramirez in there, Steve, it's just that I think Zepeda just might be done. I think somewhere in that 9th, 10th round against Prograis, he left it all there. He had a moment where he had a good round in there and he hurt Rug to the body. And I think that might have been the last of the good we saw in Zepeda. He's been in a whole lot of wars. It wouldn't shock me that he just went over the hill. Yeah, he can still fucking screw around with the Goyats of the fucking world. But even against this Ramirez, against Comey, you could tell that he's not the same fighter that ran Josh Taylor close. I don't want Zepeda do that. Fight chumps in Mexico or hang it up, man, because I think he's done at the top level. I hate saying that because Chone is one of my favorite fighters the last 10 years. I mean, been so many really good fights, good bang for your buck, in that Baranchek fight, man. I mean, he has stamped his place in boxing lore with that one. But Goyat, man, it's the total opposite end of the spectrum. What a shit fight. And please don't have the rematch. Or maybe the first fight with the Ramirez. I'm trying to remember if they even fought. They did fight each other.
Ramirez fought Zepeda,
yeah. Those guys, they pretty much all fought each other. Yeah. And
are they talking about them rematching? Is that?
Yeah. Because remember they were talking about that originally, and Ramirez said he didn't want that.
That's shit, man. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, especially with what I mean. Do you agree, Steve? I mean, Goyat's bullshit aside, Zepeda just looked flat.
Well, I think, that was because it was in some like a sports hall. I mean, the camera was terrible. It was like losing focus and stuff. The two fellas on commentary were having a great time. It summed up an Oscar card. It was like Oscar on the Coke, really, the whole card. Just get Zepeda out there, keep him active? Is he with Golden Boy now? I mean, is it possible to make a fight back on Top Rank? I mean, that's something to be discussed as well. They obviously bought this Indian fella out. He was a couple of weight classes above where he should be fighting. He had a beard. His nickname's Gangster. As you said, he was clowning around the whole fight. It was just to get Zepeda out and the rust off him, really. I don't want to see that rematch with Ramirez. Last I heard, they were talking Ramirez against Regis Prograis or Barboza. That might have been Lopez, actually. I'm starting to get confused myself. Wasn't it Prograis against Ramirez they were talking about?
Yeah, I think it might be that, but there could be a chance that they mention Ramirez against Prograis. Obviously, both top-ranked fighters, and Teofimo Lopez tied up in the Josh Taylor fight. So that all would make sense. Right. It just, yeah, the second that I saw that was even being fluttered around, I'm like, no, that's wrong on multiple levels. And the one that comes to mind most is I just think Zepeda's done, Steve. I really do.
Zepeda's done, Andy. I know you saw Ramirez against Comey. How much more life are they going to get out of Comey, man? They're just going to keep battering this guy until he flipping ends up as a cabbage. I mean, come on, man, give this guy a break.
Oh, mate, it was. I think. Well, I mean, he's no won now. That's 3 fights now that he's no won. Yeah. I think was it one in his last 5 or 6 possibly. Can't be much left, mate, after this, to be fair. I mean, obviously, it was a busy fight. Comey done his best with what he could. I mean, he was coming forward, he was throwing uppercuts. But it seemed I just felt Ramirez was good. He was I thought he was strong. Certainly looked, very good shape, at least. Laying good pressure to the body. Obviously, the left took the signature shot in that, we all know that. He's just picking up the pace. I kind of felt in that as well, that with the kind of front foot, Ramirez was been on the front foot kind of early in that. It was getting a bit kind of quiet run about the kind of 8th, probably the 9th. But fair play to Comey, man. I mean, he was pressing, he was coming forward about the 9th and the 10th, I think it was, early doors, and then he was standing his ground. Possibly he was just, I would say maybe the 9th. I mean, he gave it to Comey possibly. Ramirez didn't kind of like work until kind of late in the round. He did get a couple of shots home. I don't think it was enough to kind of nick the round possibly. Then you got the 10th where they were just both swinging in the pocket, and that, fair play to Comey hanging his balls out there. But he's doing early, obviously, in the 11th with double left hook, and then the right hand, I think it was. He's up, and but Ramirez just kind of pressed hard on him with the kind of whipping shots, and finally he's kind of forced to take a knee. I think it was a body shot, forced to take a knee for a 10 count. So yeah, it was a good action fight. Valiant effort by Comey. I think he's new at that stage, whereas he's going to end up being that tough test for the young prospect coming through. Actually, that's the route he's heading on at this point, I think, in my opinion, or maybe a tune-up for one of the titleists or title challenger. But just on Ramirez, and that, I think it's now time. I don't want. We're talking about a potential rematch with Pedraza. Fuck that shit. I want to see him fighting Prograis next. By the way, that fight needs to happen. I think it was definitely spoke about, but Ramirez potentially maybe pulled out of it possibly. I forget what the situation was at this point, but I want to see that fight. Prograis, I think, is the bona fide number 1 in the division. If Taylor does move up, I think Prograis would take over that spot at this point. Ramirez, Prograis next for me if possible.
Yep, that would be good for me as well. I'd be happy to see that. Jim McDonald Boxing says 135 listeners, only 26 likes. Come on, for Christ's sake, lads. Some good lads on this podcast, on this panel. Hit the like button, why don't you? We'll throw it out again, Matty. If we get over 100 likes this week and all the weeks in April, by the end of April, if we've got over 100 likes every week, we'll do a call-in show. How about that, Matty? On a Friday evening, little bonus extra. They can call in and talk to us if they want. If we get over 100 likes from now until the end of April. Can't say fairer than that. Matthew, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'll even just sit there and let him tell me off. That's cool.
There you go, boys. See? Hit the like button. Come on now. And if you're listening after the fact, if you're out walking your dog, if you're having a shit, if you're at work, you're shagging the missus, whatever you do when you're listening to the pod, go stop right now, get off and go and hit the like button. And if we get over 100 likes from now until the end of April, we'll do a bonus show for you. Before you took us down the looking glass, Matty, I can't remember if you said whether you watched the Top Rank undercard or not, did you?
I was able to catch Sinesa Estrada on there in her top ranked debut in a unification belt, 105 pounds against Tina Ruprecht. And she showed why she is definitely one of the top 10 pound for pound fighters in women's boxing. She has all the tools. I think Andre and Tim were kind of playing company man and overselling her a little bit. But that said, I mean, they've seen so many just vanilla women's boxers that that when you're discussing someone like Sinisa Estrada, who is very dynamic, she does pop a lot compared to the competition. She's a tremendous fighter, and we'll see where she goes next. Yokasta Valle also fought that night. Apparently, I need to watch that, but she won, and they're talking maybe a unification between the two of those. Last I knew, Yokasta was with Marv Nation, so let's see if they can make that work. But yes, Sinisa is fantastic, and if she can get through that and then get a fight against Jessica Neri, who took belts off of Kim Clavel in Canada earlier this year. I think if she's really looking on getting some fights, but that might actually be competitive, where there's some belts and some meaning, that would be the 1-2 punch I'd give for Sinisa. But she really did put in a good performance against the undefeated German, who has heart, and is definitely a good enough fighter who would beat 99% of the women at the weight. But Sinisa she's just in that absolute upper echelon, and I think it's going to take something up the scales for her to really be taken to the brink of maybe losing a fight. She's going to need someone with skill and size if they're going to manage her.
Well said, Matty. Sounds like the ESPN undercard was pretty decent. Shout out to Ronnie Hussein, my favourite Hussein since Saddam left the scene. He said, "You got my like, lads." We've always got the like from Ronnie. We've always got our back.
May Ronnie meet a better end than Saddam ever did.
Yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully so. He's a good lad. He's Ronnie. For Christ's sake, get them likes up for him, if nothing else, out there. Andrew Thickett says I'm hauling myself out. Absolutely, Andrew. You're fucking right, I am. Join us over at patreon.com/boxing asylum. Anyway, let's move on. What else did we have over the weekend? Lyndon Arthur, Andy. I was looking forward to him fighting that Argentinian. Looked like he was up for it. They were taking photos outside Bolton Stadium. It's the Reebok Stadium when I was there about 20 years ago. Anyway, he failed a medical. Boris Creighton, a black fella from Aberdeen, jumped in. This was all getting a bit bizarre on Friday night. Fought Lyndon Arthur over 10 rounds. Was it 12 rounds? I didn't see any of the rounds, but apparently you suffered, so we didn't have to.
Well, I suffered a wee bit, to be fair, mate. It was one of the moments where I kind of lulled into my phone and the deepest, dark, worst parts of Twitter and that. But it's just Arthur style. He just kind of he pops that jab, and he's very. You talk about economical, man. Jesus Christ! If he was any more laid back, he'd be vertical, man. Just waiting for him to kind of cut loose on the right hand. So fair play to Creighton. He took the fighting. I don't know what the notice was again. It was just like 24 hours or something. Done late in I think it was the last round in that as well. So he done well to kind of survive. It was just one of the type of performances, mate, that you kind of expect sometimes. Maybe it was just one of the type of fights where I just kind of late changed the opponent. Maybe it was motivation. I don't know what it was at the end of the day, but I thought Creighton wasn't disgraced, at least,
Yeah. You can't really do wrong coming in at that short notice. You can only elevate your standing. If you get knocked out, people expecting that anyway.
He tried to be competitive. He was tough, whatever the notice was again at this point. He did land his shots, a few shots here and there. So I dare say, all like that, at least I think maybe Creighton's stock certainly rises at the end of the day. But you're talking like Lyndon Arthur, world ranked. What is he, top 3, top 4? I was expecting maybe a bit better, to be fair. But obviously, again, late change. You just don't know how that throws things off in that as well.
Absolutely well said. Wasserman are returning next weekend. We'll talk about that shortly. It's Harlem Eubank. I don't know why they got rid of Fat Mick, but he was ringside at the Sky Show last night, actually, with his son, Mick Jr. It looks all right, Mickey, like he'd lost a bit of weight. Right, what have we got? Let's just tidy things up before we move on to I think we got a question from Danny Young. And then
there's a lot of shit going on, man, all over the world.
I'm looking over here. What about the Canadian card? Then we'll go to that next, Matty, on Thursday evening. I love a little Canadian card, actually. I didn't see any of the undercard. Well, I tell a lie. I saw Simon Keane against Eric Molina. They're still rumbling out Eric Molina. Simon Keane throws a worse right hand than Dillian White. I didn't think that was possible, man. He looked absolutely shocking him. But at least it was made up for in the main event. When I saw you talking about it the next morning, spoiler alert, I knew that Billy had won the fight. But it wasn't as plain sailing as I thought, especially those cards, 99, 91, 98, 92. They might have been technically correct, but I don't think, Matty, they told the story of the fight because Kangora was tough. He was elusive. He was a big puncher. He gave Billy a lot of trouble.
No, holy shit, man. That was a great fight where both
Some
guys
fucking
landed shots.
Mm.
Kangora, man, I mean, that dude has a beard on him, and he might not be shot. His reflexes might not be what they were, but he is not shot like I might have thought of. Just a potentially bad style matchup against Lerone Richards in his outing prior. But I tell you what, man, and Billy was landing absolute bombs on him, and it's almost ended up getting stopped towards the 10th end of the 10th round, but it was just a tremendous action back and forth. But the 8th round, Steve, I got to tell you, that needs to be in everyone's notes if you're looking for candidates potentially for round of the year. They just went back and forth. Both guys hurt during that round, huge shots, and it's one of those fights that's hard to put into words because and Billy was landing was definitely winning the rounds, but it was a deserved winner. But it's just the fact that what they ate off of each other when they did land was just incredible. I mean, there was just hardly any touch shots in that fight. It was just almost entirely the biggest blows that they can muster at all times. So put this fight on your list to watch. And in round 8, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but that's going to be on my list of reviewable rounds for round of the year come end of year.
Andy, I'm not sure how much you saw of this card, but Kangora, we saw him against Richards before, against Akhmedov. That was his big moment. Feel free to riff off the back of this one. And then if Matty wants to go into the ProBox card as well, go ahead, boys.
No problem. I thought, obviously, when Matty jumped in there with the Facebook comment and that on the Facebook Messenger, I said, well, I'll definitely get that watched. It was very interesting fight, very good fight. I obviously agree with what Matty said there. Get anybody who's seen it, get it watched. Kangora, I mean, that chin is it was absolutely unbelievable, the shots he was taking. As you say, Matty, that round 8, I got a note here saying it's just taking turns to punch slabs of meat off each other. Kangora gave some back with massive uppercuts and that as well. Fair play to him. He's fucking fighting to the absolute bitter end of that. But he was still competitive going in that round 10, showing shots. But I just think the fatigue was just too much in the end because obviously he took a fair bit of punishment in that as well. I think in Billy they've actually obviously kind of targeted the body in that as well. He throws obviously straight shots, but some of those wild winging hooks that he was throwing in that as well. Some of them those were landing, and those were telling in the end because obviously they were working on the body and getting Kangora to kind of slow down a little bit in that as well. Round 6 in that as well, as I says, I've got Kangora at chin. That's when I kind of knew that if he's not going to make it as a A-class fighter, potential world champion, that man, that could be because of that, because the fucking chin, the resistance that he showed, well, he's taking those head and body shots, man, that round 6 especially. Round 6 coupled with round 8 made it a very, very special fight for me, actually. Wouldn't they say it was maybe kind of fight of the year contender stuff, but it was solid, it was brutal, absolute brutal. But and Billy, man, that's going to take some shifting. That is one strong motherfucker, by the way. That is going to take some moving. Chin solid as well, built like a tank. Just keeps coming and keeps throwing shots.
Those uppercuts, man. I mean, I know he was hurt off of Kangora, but the fact that he ate 3, like 4 or 5 of them in a row, it's like, Jesus fuck, man.
Brutal, man. I think it was round 3. I think he was Billy was like applying like massive pressure, forcing Kangora on the back foot. And then, as I say, he's looking for the body shots and that. And then you just kind of felt that maybe Kangora wasn't like throwing enough shots and that. It's like he likes to fight at a pace. He likes to kind of fight at a steady pace as such. If you're putting pressure on him, he struggles with it. He has got decent power, but it's just but I just think he can do it off the back foot. I think he's able to plant himself properly to throw those heavy shots. So I think it was round 3, maybe caught him Billy with a heavy right hand, possibly. Other than that, he says he was obviously landing these heavy shots, but he wasn't really having the same effect, I don't think, on Billy as the fight wore on, as what Billy was having on him. So obviously fatigue, and I thought Billy was certainly stronger than the stretch, whereas you could definitely see the fatigue in Kangora in that as well. So again, was he fully trained? Was it maybe coming down for altitude? Because obviously stays in Ecuador. I don't know, but I've always liked the guy, to be fair, but you kind of worry about that now, actually, because that was a heavy fight, and you just think, he won too many fights like that at this time in his career when he's like early 30s, when it's he's trying to get some good paydays again. he's only got 1 or 2 fights, and if he keeps fighting like that, if he's in those type of fights at least, so.
I was right after the fight in the Nutters group. I was saying that they need to take Kangora to the hospital just for observation. Yeah, that was a vicious beating he took, but it was one of those things where he did just enough at moments where the referee couldn't find the right moment to step in and call it a day. Right, he just did enough at the right times that it took a stoppage off the table. And that's oftentimes the worst thing a fighter can do to themselves is,
but if that was a 12, he was getting stopped, wasn't he? He was holding on by a gnat's cock at the end.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I mean, obviously it's Billy moving forward, Steve. He,
massive.
He, I don't know how the promotional things are going to work and et cetera, et cetera. But the fight that I see in my head, kind of where they're both at in their careers, I would like to see Billy fight. God damn it, I just forgot his name. Or David Morrell. I think that Billy against David Morrell, that's a real fight right there.
It would be, as long as it lasts. Morrell would stop him, though. I think.
I think you might be very well right, but he's going to have to work goddamn hard to do it. He's going to have to walk through fire along the way.
But Billy against Benavidez, obviously, it's not going to happen at this point. But it would be an interesting one, clash of styles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Benavidez would fuck around with a guy like Billy until he gets his Canelo shot. He's got laser sights on that, and I think Canelo has one more after Ryder, and then his DAZN deal is up, so that would open up.
Well, that's what I'm going to say.
Next year.
So Benavidez is going to stay busy, man. He's, as I says, Canelo's still to fight. He's going to fight twice this year, for what I understand, right? And it's not going to be Benavidez is going to be one of them. So he's going to need to fight again at least once this year. And then kind of like taper into the Canelo fight if it's a chance to get made it for next year.
If there's any fight that they might give him along the way, and you might think, I don't know if they do that because he could end up looking bad. I don't think he's too worried about it. I think Benavidez against Demetrius Andrade in an 18-foot ring could very well happen this year. It ain't going to be no 22-foot ring like last night. Trust me.
Friday night, quick shout out to Jermaine Brown. Went over to Italy, did his best, lost to Ivan Zuko. It was a fair result, actually. I thought Zuko looked pretty good. Usually they get jobbed out there, but Brown didn't do enough to win. I think he was happy enough at the end. Have you spoken about the ProBox card, Matty? I didn't watch this, actually.
No, man, I didn't. I pulled it. I pulled up the card to see what was on there by the names. It was headlined by Mohamed Samaro against Angel Vasquez Luperchero. Luperchero was coming in undefeated. Samaro with 1 defeat, but this is the second undefeated fighter that he's been able to take out on a ProBox card, and he had just too much firepower. And it was one of those fights that went a little too long, probably, Steve. But again, where the referee probably couldn't find the right moment to stop it. But it was a good fight. While it lasted, definitely heavily leaning towards Samaro, who moves forward at 13-1 off of 2 victories over undefeated fighters in this ProBox system, where obviously they're doing some good stuff. And if you're going to throw something on your watch list from this card, I'm going to recommend that our listeners just check out a 6-round affair, which went to majority decision between DeMontes Duncan and Axel Melendez Salgado. Absolute fucking good war, this one. 6 rounds, worth the watch. These guys definitely went into the trenches, and Salgado deserving winner. But again, how the hell can anyone's stock go down in fights like these? So I do recommend not only you, Steve, but anyone out there. And you can catch all of these on YouTube. They got advertisements on the free stuff on YouTube, or you can just join for a few bucks a month as well.
Thank you, Matty, for the recommendation. Last but by no means least, Andy, the BT card. Don't be expecting a long breakdown of this, everybody listening at home, because I'm starting to lose the will to live. By this point, I'm sure Andy is as well.
Yeah, this is the week Rob and Oz aren't here. They're the ones that have the chance to win the money. And we're fucking suffering here through one of the busiest boxing weekends ever. Right. You feel like fucking Alex in that scene in Clockwork Orange where he's fucking just with his eyes fucking being held open, being forced to watch movies. You're like, that was me at 1:30. I'm like, I fucking hate you, Goat. Why am I doing this? Fuck.
That's us.
Fuck.
We're trying.
Fuck.
We're trying. Ozzy and
Well-
Rob are both on holiday. Yeah, so we had Andrew Kane iron up Beluto. It sounded like it was a fight to the card. I didn't actually
Yeah,
see
it
that one.
was.
I saw bits of Cunningham against Gonzalez, Andy. I saw the first 4 rounds of Heaney flatly, and then I just had to go to bed because I had enough by that point.
Yeah, I was just saying, mate. I'm repeating myself here, but I was flipping back and forward between the Sky, that card, and there was something else, and I was kind of like keeping an eye on as well. This card went on for fucking ages, man. As I say, I thought Kane Beluto was like the main event, and then I realised there was still 3 fights to come. I was like, fucking hell. I think it was Itume, Haney, and Cunningham. At this point, mate, I was the same as you. I said, time for bed, man. So anyway, I'll just break down Andrew Kane against Beluto. What a fight that was, man. Kane come out first round, man. He was not fucking around. Put Beluto on his arse. Almost put him Pluto, actually. Banging shots, really using that aggressive style, and that I was like, he's going to get him out of here very early. Then gradually, kind of the gas, I would say, maybe kind of slightly petered out. Fair play to Beluto, man. He hung his balls out there time and time again. I'll recommend to Matty this fight. Actually, I don't think Matty's seen this one. So I think Ozzy mentioned it last week as well. This fight to him, so get it watched, Matty. Very very good fight.
Right on.
Says latter half it, Beluto's really digging in. He is just non-stop throwing punches. He's got Kane. I don't know if it was a broken nose, but certainly it was continuously bleeding, leaking blood. And then I think it was the 9th or the 10th, he got caught with a right hand, Andy Kane, and got dropped right into the ropes. Very heavy shot, actually. You can see the kind of effect on him. And then obviously Beluto's just tried to kind of jump on top, make the best of it and that. And to me, at least, it was certainly bringing it possibly in about the 8th round. I think it was very tight in the cards by this point. I think 93, 94, maybe 90, it was probably fair to Beluto. I think 95, 92, maybe. But the 96, 91 card to Andrew Kane was quite wide the other way in that. So split decision, but what a fight. Absolutely great fight. Both guys dropped. So Beluto was dropped twice, first round. So if you've not seen it, guys, get round and get it watched. Definitely an upset. Don't know if it'll be a rematch or anything like that in the interim anyway, at least. But the belt's changing hands here, so I don't know if Beluto would probably get another opportunity off the back of it with a world title fight. It was for WBC title of some sorts. So he's come back to the UK, finally got on the win after Liam Davis lost and that as well. So fair play to him. Says he hung himself out to dry there actually and fucking pulled it out the fire in the end after a bad opening. He says the first 3 rounds, man, you're thinking he can't hold the power of this Kane, and he's hyper aggressive. This guy, man, he's a fucking pit bull. And gradually just kind of petered out. The gas slightly went for him, as I says, and then the Beluto's just kind of hung in the fight and gradually pulled it out the fire. So fair play to him.
Andy, you briefly mentioned Moses Itoma with his first round knockout over Ramon Ibarra. This is the second time he's blasted someone away there. Just quickly, Danny Young has made his feelings known on this. He says, seriously, there are levels for Itoma. These opponents are no good for him. Who do you think is next? He's throwing out names like Razvan Kajanu or even Camille Sokolowski. Even if it's not those guys, it's got to be a step up from these puddings they're putting him in with.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the thing is his age and that as well. What is he's only 18, 19 at this point, so there is absolutely no rush with him. Because, as I say, I don't know if the rule still exists, but he can't fight for a British title until he's, is it 21, Steve? I don't know
It used to be. Right enough, I never thought about that. That's a good point,
And then I don't know if that also includes area and, English titles, that type of thing. Maybe no. But somebody need to ask that question, actually. He's due to fight on the next month, actually. He's on the... What card is that again?
The Zhang Joyce card.
That's the one. He's on the COMMEY card. So, look, there's absolutely no rush with him, actually. 18, he's fucking still grown, man. He's only 18-year-old at the end of the day. Again, if obviously he's got this thing in his head that he wants to try and beat Tyson's record. What was Tyson, 20-year-old when he won the title? He's going to have to be fighting at least, how many times this year? 10, 15 times.
Just keep him active, I think, is the main thing.
Avoid injuries. But again, I just don't know how you step him up in class now. I mean, what do? You just feed him to like 10 bums, for the next 10 fights, not over 4, 6, 8 rounders, then step him up to title class around about the 10 round mark. But again, you need to ask the question, can he fight for titles at 18? I don't know what that situation is at this point.
Yeah, there's no rush, but I think slightly better than these guys. Someone who's going to take him into the second round, maybe.
Test him, chin. I mean, obviously, what was his brother? Remember, was it the
Carroll? Yeah.
On his debut, and that man, he got fucking touched up that night as well, didn't he? Eh? Something like that, really. Obviously different weight classes, but a guy like who his brother fought, obviously a guy who was going to, give a bit back, test him, drop him, possibly, and that just to check his guts, really. But he seems to have the power, mate. I mean, I think it was the World Youths, maybe the European Youth Championships. He was knocking out everybody, and it's very unheard of in amateur scenes. Like, even at super heavyweight or heavyweight, where we see comparing it, that these guys are actually knocking guys out, even in that weight class in amateurs. And that. So I just thought it was a bit weird them turning over pro so quick. I thought he would have been a stick on for a Olympic medal, but obviously you've got the situation in Paris Games and that as well, that they might not even be, taking part in it.
Yeah, bring back some of the old UK journeymen heavyweights from back in the day, Howard Daly or Paul Bonson, maybe someone like that to take him a few rounds would be ideal. I think I'm going to can this till next week when Rob and Ozzy are back. Obviously, the Eddie Hearn, Simon Jordan interview that was going on during the week, many of us watched it. I had opinions at the time. I've forgotten most of them now.
I fell asleep after half an hour by a weekend. That it just went on and on and on about the Conor Ben situation.
At the time, I thought it was interesting enough to a point. I got fed up and turned it off when they started talking about other things. But I was thinking about talking it tonight, thinking Ozzy and Rob were going to be on. But to be honest, I'm glad because I've forgotten half of it.
Well, all I can remember that Simon Jordan started like Tommy Hearns against Marvin Hagler. Came out far too soon. Just shot his bolt a wee bit, and then obviously I've got a question mark. I maybe need to call UCAD and maybe VADA about this stuff. But did you see that wee glass that he was drinking from Simon Jordan? I don't know if it was a PED. He kind of get the senses going again, or whatever it was. So, cheers inquiring that one into Simon Jordan there. There's a lot to unpack, obviously, and that Eddie's still hanging on to that Billy Joe Saunders. Apparently, that was what was the unique case? I think he said it was. It's not at all related to it, man. Totally different situation. The East case is going to be judged on its own merits. You'd be better waiting until the guys are back and we can have a broader discussion about it.
Yep, good point. Maybe go back and watch it again so I can remember. But that was Eddie versus Simon Jordan. It was interesting. I enjoyed it at the time. A quick cursory mention for a couple of shows next weekend. We're not going to go into these in too much depth, but we'll mention them just in case they happen to be good fights. Harlem Eubank, as I mentioned earlier, is fighting on the 31st of March on Channel 5 against Christian Uruzqueta. Harry Scarf is on the undercard against Jordan Dujon. And Nick Parker against Michael Webster. Abbas Barrow, he's German-based, I think, Andy. Mm-hmm. No, he's not a Cuban, is he?
No, he's a German, mate. I've seen a fair bit of him. He obviously had that L against
Kolkai,
aye. Yeah. During the lockdown period. I think he was with Adam Booth for a fair bit, actually. I think that's the reason why he's maybe over here fighting. He's
fought on the Josh Taylor Regis Prograis undercard. That's right,
yeah. He beat that Jay Spencer in one round as well. But he's a decent boxer, just not got the power. I've seen enough of him to suggest that he's got ability to pick up a belt under the favourable circumstances, but just not got that power as well. So it could get himself into a point whereas if he's in a tight fight, he could end up losing lose a close decision because he's just not got that power to kind of change a round or a fight for himself in that. So it was an eight rounder. Even at this point, he's 28 or something like that now. And that he's another one that's no really kind of progressed forward.
Push on. Losing to Kolkai is no shame, really. Kolkai's a decent fighter.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's Kolkai is a decent fighter, but for Barrow, who was coming out the amateurs and that as a kind of touty prospect, if he's going to be going up levels, that he needs to be beating Kolkai. Who incidentally actually hasn't really stepped up in class since he beat him either, to be fair. He's been kind of fighting Italians and that type of thing and that as well. I mean, he's not really fought anybody since it was at Devachenko fight, maybe Yami Sade possibly. So
we'll keep an eye on that. Saturday the 1st of April, Australia, Fox, Floyd Masson against Fabio Turchi, IBO Cruiserweight title. Turchi, you might remember getting stopped by a body shot against Richard Riakporhe, also lost to Tommy McCarthy. Be interesting to see how Masson steps up in that one.
Masson was in a fucking really good fight a couple years ago.
Michael Flanagan.
There you go. Yeah.
Mark Flanagan, sorry, yeah.
Mark Flanagan, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's why I knew the name. I couldn't remember who he was fighting against, but he always brings the value.
Steve, I was looking at what was going on Fight TV this week out of curiosity. I think that one will be available for me to watch. Obviously, I won't be waking up at 3 a.m. to do it. But those that have a Fight TV subscription, that is on there. And you'll get to watch crazy shit like the bare knuckle fight that I watched on Saturday night too, or Friday night. And yeah, even the ref took a fighter to the canvas. It was intense.
Someone needs to take your remote control off you, Matty, and stick it away somewhere.
Dude, someone asked me in the Nutters group, Steve, is there anything on tonight? So I explored my options, and I landed on a bare knuckle championship fight, which is in one of the most incredible fucking shit shows I've ever seen in my life. Like, there was an overhead press slam resulting in 2 points being deducted, and there's knockdown. The referee took down a fighter trying to get him out of a fucking clinch. And then it was just all over because the guy broke his hand. It was just fucking nuts.
Yeah, Matty doing the Lord's work, watching the fights on a Friday evening, hitting the like button as well. Hopefully you've done that too. Get those likes up, everybody, if you can, and subscribe if you want to hear a little bit more of the Nutters. Okay, what should we go on to next? That's the question, isn't it? USA, ESPN Plus. We'll go to that one over in Oklahoma. Bob Arum for Top Rank. Andy, looking down the undercard, there's a lot of names. There's name soup. Can't recognise half of them. Joet Gonzalez, I recognise him going in against Enrique Vivas. Not really too much to get excited about, but the world title fight in the main event is certainly something to get up for. Isaac Dogboe, we know all about him, WBO World Featherweight Champion in the past. This is the vacant title up against Rubezi Ramirez. We got off to a bit of a rocky start. We all know he was a quality amateur back in the day. What are you expecting from this one, Andy? I have my own thoughts, but I'm curious to think what you think.
I think this is tailor-made for Ramirez, to be fair, mate. I would think he might do it by late stoppage. Obviously, he's picked up a wee bit. He's become a wee bit of the testable ball bag, to be fair, and that. A wee bit like Chris Colbert there, like last night as well, with Michael Gomez Jr. But, what he does is it's effective. He's aggressive, good power. I just think Dogboe showed in the last few fights. There's the wear and tear, the tight fights, the razor close fights, the decisions, that type of thing. I just think you've got a guy who's definitely on the back end of his career, been in wars, mileage on the clock, body maybe breaking apart a little bit in that as well. Ramirez, who's just maybe at this point in his career, I would say, even with all his amateur background experience, what is it, well over 100 amateur fights, maybe even close to 200 possibly. Maybe at his peak at this point. I'll fancy him strongly, and I think he'll maybe do it late. I'll go for maybe a 10th or 11th round stoppage. I think he'll probably corner Dogboe, maybe work his body, head and body, I should say. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see Dogboe actually even quit possibly in that as well. Remember that time, who was it? Rodriguez fight?
Yeah.
He was feeling really sorry for himself. I think it might be the rematch. Feeling really sorry for himself. His dad was imploring him to go forward. I just think he had enough.
He's a danger. His dad. He wants to get him out of the corner.
Don't know if he's still there actually, but if he is, then it's a bit of danger, because if he is under fire, it's going to be a gut check of him. Plus, it's his last opportunity, I would say, as sorts. This is for the vacant belt. Even 28, he's been around for ages, actually. I mean, what was that fight he had in Ghana? It was fucking rocking.
Oh, yeah, that was against Juarez. That was about 5-6 years ago now.
It was live on Facebook, I remember. It was fucking photo on top of the roofs and then trees watching the fight, man. It was fucking brilliant. What an atmosphere. That was great.
We need to put him in against Richard Comey. The two of them can beat lumps-heads to each other on ESPN in a 10-rounder.
I've just checked it. It was the Bakun Boxing Arena, actually. So that's where, like, say, Zuma Nelson and that all trained, and all the great fighters like Quartet and that all came out of that area, I'm sure. Look, he's been solid. Obviously, that as well. He's had I think he came to the UK and did his education in that as well before he actually took up boxing, full time. So maybe it's just one more payday for him when he gets out and he falls back on his studies or his qualifications and goes back to work or whatever and that. But at this point, Ramirez, I think he's coming into his own at this point, and I expect him strongly to win this fight. If it's no knockout, then I think it's a wide points decision for Ramirez.
Yeah, I agree. The knockout would be the statement. I think they've dealt with him well, Matty. They've match-made him well since that Gonzalez fight. He lost on his debut. He got the rematch win. Then they put him in against Felix Caraballo, who's not great, but he's fought a few decent names. A little bit of a sink or swim against Orlando Gonzalez, both unbeaten, got through that, beat the shit out of my pal Eric Donovan. Then Nova again, that step up. A lot of people fancied Nova for that one.
Decent win there. You know,
he looked fantastic when I thought he looked excellent that night. And then against that Romero in his last fight, eventually got rid of him. Romero is very difficult to look good against. Even Isak Cruz struggled against him. He's just a literal runner. And he eventually got the stoppage in the end, which looks good on the record. And they've just timed it perfectly now to come back into this Dogbay fight. He's at his peak, 29 years of age. He's got the style nailed down. Plus he has the skill, the speed, the accuracy from the amateur days. I think he's going to be a real handful. And I'm looking like Andy, maybe a late stoppage here.
Robisi Ramirez is going to lose. And do you want to know why, Steve?
Go on then.
Because you've bet on it.
Because Tim Tszyu and David Benavidez have already won. And all I need is Robisi Ramirez to win for my 3-leg parlay to come in. So obviously, Robisi Ramirez is going to lose. I don't know how and I don't know why, but that would seem to be the way it's going to go. If there's no karmic force working against me in the universe, what I would say, Steve, is that you could argue that Dogbay has lost his last 2 fights or had a couple of draws his last 2 fights. I thought Joey Gonzalez beat him. And just the way his defense is and the way he is willing to kind of stick his head out static against the ropes. Steve, what I really see happening in this fight, if there's nothing fighting against me in the universe, is for BC Ramirez finding a right hook around the guard of Isaac Dogbay and using that to finish his night, if not maybe catching him with an uppercut when he does his little lean-in move. Ramirez, very accurate, very good timing. So there, I see a couple of good ways that he could take advantage of those moments when Dogbay chooses to get static and look for a countering opportunity. But yeah, we'll see what happens. History would show, though, that somehow, some way, Ramirez is going to lose.
I'm looking forward to. I like a bit of Ramirez myself, and Dogbay always brings the power. Tell us about the tattoos, says Callum B. Anthony Manzano, hashtag mob, says, hi, Boxing Asylum. I just subscribed to the channel. Thank you very much. Straight to the point, Anthony. That's what we like to see. If you want to join him, go over and hit the like, subscribe, etc., etc. Matty, there's a bit of weirdness going on with the prediction league this week. Is this a good a time as any for you to jump in and tell us who we need to be predicting on?
Well, yeah, so there's going to be 2 fights here, and I guess it's just the 3 of us. We might as well get it out of the way here. I had Oz and Rob send me their picks, and Oz had a perfect week this last week, which brought him to a tie with Rob, both at 44 points. My concern is that, God, what if they send me the same picks? I'd have to think of some dumb tiebreaker or something. But thankfully they didn't. For one of your picks, we're going to start with a Southern area title fight. I dug deep for this one, gentlemen. Got Konstantin Ursu. I think he's Moldovan, and he immigrated to your fine nation some years ago. And he's going to be going against Matthew King, 1 defeat, and that was in his debut fight. Neither of them with much firepower. Both of them only have 1 stoppage to their credit. Mr. Kelly went Ursu points, and so did Mr. Smith. And Steve, why don't we go in descending order from who's away from the top here? You're next closest to him, so theoretically, Steve, well, actually, no, because never mind, because they chose differently on Joshua. You're kind of in just kind of where you are. But who would you take between Ursu and King? Think the native born might get the lean?
He might do, Matty. Just before we go into that, I'm going to go on a little sidetrack, as I tend to do. I noticed this fight was in Plymouth, not quite the hotbed of boxing. It's down the south of England, in case you're wondering. But
Steve, isn't it weird that the Pilgrims left Plymouth and landed in Plymouth?
Yeah.
I've always found that strange.
It is a bit of a coincidence, but I remember a fighter from about, it must have been about 15 years ago now, called Scott Dynamite Dan. He was from Plymouth, and he used to sell out the pavilions. He fought against Howard Eastman at some point. I think Howard Eastman stopped him. It was around the Mick Hennessy on BBC era. This was when Frotch was on the way up. He would have appeared on some of the undercards before Tyson Fury. Damon Haig and Matthew Thurwell. I'm going back in time now. Anyway, Scott Dan fought against Steve Bendel. I think he beat Wayne Elcock as well. British title level, but a really exciting fighter. Oh, he fought a Canadian called Larry Sharp as well. So that took me back to those Plymouth days on the BBC. I know Des will probably remember that if he's listening in later. Anyway, back to the point in hand, Matty. I am going to go for Matthew King. And the reason why I'm going for this, I think he's a hometown fighter. He's from Southampton, which is on down the coast. His nickname is Cobra. So he's going for the sort of Carl Froch thing there. They fought between them quite a few guys with no wins, and they've only got one knockout each. So there's not going to be a power punching finish here. But the reason I'm going for King is quite simple. He has someone on his record that I recognise, whereas the other fella has nobody on his record that I recognise. He fought Edward Donovan on his debut in the Copper Box and lost on points. And I remember actually doing a press release for, I think it was Black Box, Dean White's crowd for the Tolworth Recreation Centre. So I had to look into Matthew King a little bit at the time. So I am familiar with him. So for familiarity reasons of him and a former opponent, Matty, I am going for King on points.
All right. And I am at 31 points. I can only 13 behind. It's been a rough time, Steve. It's been a rough time. I'm going to go with you. I'm taking the local boy, more so because fuck Rob or fuck Oz for taking my money. Andy.
Well, I don't know if any of you's checked, but Constantine Urso is actually staying in Plymouth, actually, and he's fought at the Guildhall a couple of times.
Yeah, but I know how you guys are towards immigrants the last fucking 10 years, so.
I don't know, mate. But I'm going to go Urso by points, I think.
Oh, he's going with the undefeated Moldovan.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's actually technically the local man then, Andy, really? He's the hometown fighter?
I'm just looking through it. He's fought at this place. This will be his fourth fight in the Guildhall, actually. Matthew King hasn't even fought in Plymouth before. He's fought all his fights in, Bournemouth, Southsea. What the fuck
he's a road warrior.
You wonder if it's kind of like Ray Beltran, where he kind of has to keep winning to keep his immigration status.
Otherwise, he gets sent to Cornwall.
Yeah. I'm just looking at some of these fucking opponents that the Moldovans fight. Josh Cook 0-20-1. Fons Alexander, he's fought 7 wins, 138 losses, 1 draw.
Just 138 losses.
100. Well, he's up to 141 now, actually, since that fight happened.
Right.
So 8 wins, 141 defeats, 1 draw. He's got a couple of fights coming up shortly, actually. One might be on that doesn't matter. A Goodwin show, actually. It's okay. But aye, slim pickings this week, Matthew. Who's the other fight you've got for us?
Well, that's going to be related to the Joshua card. So why don't you go ahead, Steve, and take us through that, and we'll wrap, because once we get to Joshua, we can discuss that and see if everyone's going the way I thought they were going. So,
okie doke, we will do. We'll go for the undercard first of all. If there's anything that stands out to you, Andy, you can let me know. So Peter Kadira has found his way onto the card. John Hedges is on there as well. An Aussie fight, if ever I saw one. Jordan Flynn against Kane Baker. Campbell, Hands of Foam, Hatton is going in against Lewis Fielding.
8-rounder, isn't it?
In an 8-rounder, he's stepping up in class. There's some decent fights. It's not the worst card I've seen in the world.
That pressure is going to start to show finally, Steve. It's just a matter of just lengthening the rounds.
He's going to wear him down.
Campbell Hatton back with his fucking Hands of Foam.
He's going to wear him down as best he can. But the fight's closer to the top. Fabio Wardley going against Michael Polite Coffey. That's not too bad. We know Coffey. We've seen him in the past against Johnny Rice. We know what he is. We know what he isn't. River Wilson Bent is kind of a staple of those Channel 5 cards. He's going in against Amo Williams. Excuse me.
You got to think that he's tough, because his entire life he'd be like in school and people would say, "Are you bent?" And he'd have to say yes. So he probably gotten a lot of fights, toughened him up. You can't discount him.
Yeah, and Matthew Butter said the card is shit. It is shit, but I'm talking about comparatively speaking. I've seen worse shit. There's levels of shit. This isn't quite as bad as some of the other stools we've been served up this year. Matteo Signani against Felix Cash as well.
You didn't see what Steve and I saw on DAZN yesterday.
Yeah, exactly, for the European title. So, what do you think of this undercard, Andy?
Well, I don't know if I'll mention Peter Kadiri, for example. He's I think the only reason he's on the undercard is because Joshua's used him in sparring a fair bit, and I'm assuming that's the reason why he's on this card, because he's been used for sparring again. So opportunities. Wardley Coffee should be decent. I'd imagine Wardley probably. You think maybe stops him mid half of that fight possibly?
Yeah.
Yeah, decent call that. Again, depends what kind of attitude he's coming with. I'm expecting Cash to win by stoppage. I think I've seen at least one of his fights for a European title. He's well up in age actually, so I do expect Cash to be able to get him. He should be close to his peak.
I was taking a look at him like, yeah, maybe he has a shot. Then what's he like 43? I'm like, oh shit, that pops out.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think he might have got stopped in one of his recent fights, but I'm sure it was on a cut. I need me a second to pull up his record here. Yeah, there it's there. Yeah, technical decision defeat, and he blasted the guy out in a rematch. Had the guy doing once. Ruben Diaz, European title defense, a Spaniard, again European level. Yeah, so at this age, 43-year-old. That I mean, it was a big thing for him actually to come back and regain that European title, I'd imagine. But it's a big opportunity for him, I suppose. But he's putting it on the line here. I would imagine I'm expecting Cash to basically break him down. Probably the 8th or the 9th actually. I think he's going to make it count. Going to make it count. I don't think he could not so much afford to look at a boring 12-round decision, but you want to see him kind of step it up especially against a guy of this caliber. If he's expecting to be world level, has to up it a little bit here. Not too sure about the Williams River Wilson Bent fight. I'm trying to remember the last time I seen Bent fight actually.
Didn't he lose to someone in a fight that
was Tyler Denny? Was it? No.
There you go.
Fight somebody else.
No, it was somebody else. He got iced. Who was it?
Hamza Shiraz.
Is that who it was? Right.
Williams will stop him, I think. Williams isn't too bad, actually.
Well, they're trying to set up the fight between Felix Cash and Austin Williams. This is just kind of an in-between. I don't know what the struggle was in actually just making it off the bat, but that should be the next fight for both of these fighters coming off of this card if they're both successful.
Matt Butters is there mentioning about TBA being out 3 times on the DAZN card. Never mind that, Andy. What happens if you were going to this Birmingham card on Friday night? Some fair action in line for you there.
What's the card, mate?
This was on Friday night. This was Friday morning, anticipating the card, having a look on BoxRec, seeing what you bought a ticket for.
Oh, mate, I'll tell you what, actually. Jesus Christ, that's the BCB card, isn't it? They had a card on Friday night, actually. It was the same on BoxRec there. But if you check BoxRec, mate, I'm sure it's next Friday or Saturday. It might be America. Right, I forget the name of the fucking place, but it's some outpost, and this card must have at least 40 fucking fights on it.
I saw that. Sorry, Andy.
You see that?
I think there's a BoxRec mistake there, because if you look closely, which I did, sad bastard that I am, a lot of the names are duplicated. Like they've got different names fighting against the same people. I think there's been a fuck up with the editors or something there.
Or maybe as a tourney, possibly.
Because I was counting them, there was about 43. Yeah, it might be a tournament. You could be quite right.
Fucking hell. I was like, fuck, who's going to stand and watch all that shit?
Because I was counting them and then I noticed the same names kept coming up and I was like,
but then
it was 32-man battle royale.
I thought it was WrestleMania week day, but I didn't even look at the names. I just looked. I've seen like the list of fucking fights. I looked across to make sure it was an amateur event. No, it's ProBox.
No, it's ProBox. That's right. Yeah, no, I think that may be a tournament. You could be right there.
Jesus Christ.
Fuck's sake.
Good luck to anybody going to that shit.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. Maybe Matty will watch it. If you're not watching that, Matty, what about the AJ undercard? Anything that takes your fancy? Do you recognise any of the names? Michael Coffey. Have you seen him before?
That could be a decent enough fight. Coffey seems, I don't know, a little bit out this last couple fights, but yeah, decent enough undercard, I guess. No, actually it isn't. Sorry, that's a lie. This event is entirely shit. There's rumors that Franklin might want to pull out for some dumb reason.
Yeah.
It might go down the tubes real awfully quick. So
do you think the Franklin thing is just like trying to drum up a bit of interest or something? I don't think he'll pull out. Surely it'd be a massive payday for him.
It's someone said in the Nutters group, there's something weird with the promoter Salida, and he because he wanted Wallen in there. But that could be wrong, and it could just be something for Franklin to try to milk a few dollars out of the whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah, no one's going to pick Wallen. No one's going to want to fight him. He's low. He's high risk, low risk, high. You know what I'm trying to say? One of them combinations. Why would you fight someone like Wallen? He's a nightmare.
Well, yeah, and it's really hard for a guy like Otto to be able to stay motivated with all these guys sidestepping him after that performance he gave against Fury. Yeah, I mean, not just the fact that he made it the distance with Fury, but he made it a rough go of it for him the entire way. So it's Otto, we appreciate you, man. Keep your head up. We want you to get one of those big fights because you deserve them. So, but yeah, you just got to keep trudging. I mean, this sport isn't fair whatsoever. We know that for a fact.
Andy, I'm not going to lie. I know we're negative on here and we're haters and we're miserable bastards, but I'm really struggling to get up for this AJ Franklin fight. I know Franklin outperformed himself against Dillian White. And if they'd have even put AJ against White in the rematch, I could have said, you know what, we've seen it before, not really that fussed, but fair enough. But the fact they've brought Franklin in off losing to White as like a pre-eminent fight before the White rematch, it's like, why on earth do we need to see? I have no interest in this.
Is that White fight even still mooted, actually? Because
I don't know.
Fuck's sake.
I don't know, man. Confidence builder, maybe, is it?
Well, I suppose there's part of that to it as well, but at the same time, it's one thing getting the win and maybe a knockout, but I think a lot it's got to look good, isn't he? Does he know? Because if he's like toiling or lethargic in any way, if he's unconvincing really in a stoppage victory, that's maybe like a mercy stoppage or it's maybe one of your weak British ones and that, it's not going to really do much good because you're going to get a negative reaction to it anyway. He's got to come out, he's got to be pissed and light with a jab. I'd imagine Franklin will be game. He seems to have a decent enough beard. I don't know, how long's he had again for this fight? Was it a good training camp at least? Because he had jiggly tits for the Dillian White fight, if I can recall.
I feel like they announced this at least 6 weeks ago, so I mean, it might not be the longest training camp.
Eddie standards, he's had a good run, hasn't he? He can box a bit, Franklin. He's not the worst I've seen in the world.
Well, and it's not like the other divisions where you're trying to make weight either, so you got to take that whole quotient out of the training camp as well.
True.
So he can box. He's got decent combinations. Don't know about his power, obviously. And that, I mean, he's done enough to keep White at bay, even though White was throwing punches at him, obviously left hooks and that. I think if Josh would be better with the straight shots than what Dillian White was, I think he'll have better success. If Franklin kind of move the head, I think he might be eating jabs all night, maybe the straight right hands. And if Joshua can bring the left hook in, I've noticed Franklin can carry the right hand a wee bit low, so maybe there's a chance that AJ can land in the left hook there. But I expect him to win, and I expect him to win by stoppage, probably looking at the latter half of the fight, maybe. Again,
because he made a good point, Andy. I was just going to say last week when he said at peak AJ, when he was going through the gears, would have smashed this guy to bits, but now we just don't know, do we?
Yeah, we don't. And obviously it's his first fight with, who's that again? Is his new trainer again?
I don't know.
Spence's training.
James, yeah, right.
James, aye. So you just don't know if they're working on new things, which I don't think they really need to. Really, I think AJ's just because of how he's built, straight shots. Keep it straight shots. He's got a decent dig on him.
Yeah.
I think.
What can you teach him?
Exactly.
What can you do differently?
You can't get him to dance. You can't get him to move the balls his feet without gas, and he's got a limited window as to how effective he is for. Decent enough finisher, I must admit, but I think the longer the fight goes, the gas tank starts to deplete a little bit, but it will definitely have more than enough to beat Franklin. But again, it comes down to how you look at the end of the day, and that he's got to try and get himself not so much back in the shot window as such, but if he can prove that he's still like a kind of force in the heavyweight division as such, I mean, if he comes out and blasts a guy out in 90 seconds, then right, okay, the hype will be back on, but I expect it to go a few rounds. And hopefully, I want to see Franklin at least have a go. I think he will.
He will.
I think
he will. I think he will, Andy.
Whether he's got enough to trouble Joshua, that's another thing. And I wonder again if he's just got the power, the wee bit of dig on him to get Joshua to get him to worry a little bit about the power coming or the shots coming at him. I still think Joshua's going to win by stoppage, so I'll go for around about an 8th or 9th round stoppage for Joshua. I don't know if he'll be in trouble or anything like that, to be fair. Again, it comes down to how he looks at the end of the day. And I think he's got to look good to try and keep the interest in him and that as well, because I don't know how ticket sales are going for his fight still, but they were fucking shocking a couple of weeks back and that. So maybe fighting in a half-full stadium, who knows?
Yeah, Dr. FMG says James will have him nicking rounds to save his gas tank. That's right. He has Charlo fighting quite conservatively, so that could be the case. Mark Stanton says, who wants to see AJ versus White too? White is shot to bits and both have been exposed. I agree with that, but we're going to see it. That's what they're going to do. So my point was, let's just get to it, shall we, rather than this precursor. But as Mark also says, if Franklin goes at him, AJ will bottle it fast. I'd love to see Franklin come out the traps and just say, you know what, I'm going to throw hell for leather for 4 or 5 rounds and see what happens.
I don't know that Franklin's going to do that.
No, I don't think he will.
I think, the thing with this fight, and you look at like how, Franklin might have overperformed against White. Well, kind of, White's problem kind of recently in his career is that he's either fighting, like kind of hanging out outside waiting for a certain shot, or he's in too close for it to matter. When Dillian White, where the place that he's dangerous is kind of at mid-range. And I think Pavette can kind of scare the shit out of him from doing that again, possibly. But that was just a huge, fucking rando shot. So I think kind of taken from that and the fact, I'm like, I don't think that the way that he fought Franklin, and I don't think there's a lot to judge from that. Nothing against Franklin. I think he's a decent enough fighter. But I think that AJ's style is going to be better for a fighter like Franklin because he's going to kind of keep him at a certain range with the jab and potentially force Franklin to kind of lean in or jump in with shots to try to find him. And I think that this opponent does play well into his hands. I mean, if you're looking at it from the perspective of Eddie Herman Matchroom right now, they can't have Joshua looking like shit against some opponent that doesn't matter. If they're going to put him in with somebody that doesn't have very much name recognition, whatever, it's got to be with the purpose of making Anthony Joshua look spectacular. So if he's not entirely just mentally shattered, I expect him to take out Franklin, and I expect him to do it reasonably early. The books had the line at 7.5.
Okay, what about the prediction league then, Matty? Are you going for the lines or what we're looking at here?
I moved the line to 6.5 because I really feel strongly that they're incorrect on that. And good to say that Oz went under, Rob went over, so we do have a difference at the top right there. In how we're seeing this going. And this time, let's work from let's see, we do top down. Let's go bottom up this time. Andy, do you think this is going more or less than 6.5? You did say 8 or 9, so I'd say you're thinking over.
Yeah, possible over, mate. I say, hopefully if Franklin does what we expect, hopefully come and have a go. He seems to have a decent enough conditioning in terms of like how he can take the shots and that. I expect him to kind of go rounds, but again, it really hinges on how AG approaches it. If he's going to be aggressive or he's just going to work on a few things, keep it straight shots, and maybe just pick it up and knock him out late. But yeah, I'll go for around about the over, mate.
Okay. All right. I'm going the under. I kind of agree with Oz on this one. We didn't discuss it specifically, but I actually think that Josh was probably going to do it in not even 6.5, probably less than 5.5. I think before the before the bell rings for the 6, I think it's going to be done. Steve, what are you going?
I'm undecided now because I'm thinking he might want to come out and make a statement given the trouble that Franklin had with White. And
I just think he's cherry picked, man. They can't risk losing the name of Joshua off of 3 state defeats. There's nothing to gain off of Franklin winning.
I think you're right, and he gave a good performance against Usyk, especially with that body shot. And he gave a good performance in line of, I thought he was definitely going to get stopped in about 7 or 8 by Usyk, and the fact that he went the distance and hurt him and hung in there shows that he's definitely still got a bit of the old bite. But
overperforming against Usyk should matter more than overperforming against Dillian White.
Yeah, I now that said, I don't know. This is a tentative safety first version of Joshua, and I think Franklin has showed enough that he's tough enough to last. I think Joshua might get rid of him in around 9 or 10, so I'm going the over. What do I know, Matty, at the end of the day?
I don't know, but the good thing for you, Steve, is starting next week, you're going to be able to try to take your crown back in the Boxing Nutters Prediction League. And just remember, anybody who is not a part of that and in the Nutters group, that'll be available to you. But if you're not part of the Patreon, that's not going to be available to you. So any of our listeners that might be wanting to get in on the action, why don't you hop on over, join through the Patreon, and we'll take care of the rest.
Loving this hard sell, Matty. This is like QVC.
Yeah, I'm done pimping out money for YouTube to jack from a Steve. It's all about the Patreon.
Yeah, well said. No, I'm washed now. I'm like Jesus Soto Carras. I'm still in the prediction league, but my best days are behind me, and I'm cutting a lot easier than usual these days.
Yeah, but you can still take one hell of a beating, Steve.
Absolutely can. Mrs. Wellington can attest to that. Shout out to Craig. He says, after 10 years in the sport and 170 professional contests, Louis Van Pooch has bowed out of boxing after defeating former snooker player Steve Davis by a score of 39-37 on a Sanigar event show in Bristol last night. Former friend of the pod is Lewis. Congratulations to him. I know he's a friend of Take Ames as well, who hasn't been spotted tonight. But 170 bouts. He's Fons Alexander's gaining in on him with his 170 or something as well now. So yeah, it's a hell of a long time in the sport for Mr. Lewis there. So fair play to him.
And guys like that are very unique to the British fight scene, I think, Steve, at the end of the day, in that part of the world. Like they asked in the Nutters group, but can you think of anyone that's the equivalent in the America today? Like the closest I could go back was kind of like somebody like Emmanuel Augustus, but even he's some levels above that. But just those guys who are ready at a moment's notice to jump in a fight and not necessarily win, but give rounds to a young fighter, and they can just do it over and over again. They're always in some degree of shape, man. It's a different breed of guy, man. You got to give a lot of respect to that, and I hope the sport remains such that folks like that still have the chance to make a living, because their value to up and coming fighters is truly immeasurable.
I think as well, Matty, it's the fact of the geography and the locations wise. They can clock up the fights going across England over a shorter distance. Wales, Scotland, obviously come over to Ireland as well, maybe France or whatever, but especially within the UK and Ireland, and get those fights on a regular basis as long as they don't get stopped. Whereas geographically, you can't really ship these guys over, can you, from West Coast to East Coast every weekend?
Yeah, well, how long does it take, even if you have to take a train from, say, London to Edinburgh? How long would that be on a train?
Be a good few hours.
6 hours.
6-7 hours, I'd say.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like, it would take me longer than that to fly from one end of this country to the next. I mean, you guys have a different luxury travel, and that's a fair point. Geography does allow for that, but God love these guys. They're a different breed of boxer, man. It's hard to put into words.
Yep, certainly is. My favourite American journeyman, just before going to Bellew of the Week, I've mentioned him before many times on this podcast, Matty. Eric Crumble.
Oh, yeah.
It's some name, isn't it, Crumble? He was 0-31, all 31 knockouts losses by knockout. And I think he got into the second round on about 4 occasions. Most of them were first round. I think he had a bit of a problem with the old pipe, Mr. Crumble. And he was a kind of have pipe will travel from 1990 up till 2003 when he retired. And Stacey Goodson as well, who we mentioned the other weekend, was a good journeyman as well. So you do have them knocking around.
What's interesting, kind of when I think about it, Steve, is sometimes former champions and title challengers, they're going downhill, kind of fill that role over here. Your Juan Carlos Burgoses of the world, maybe. Going back, God, wasn't it, was it Ray Mercer fought for years and years upon years. Livingston
Oliver McCall as well.
Oliver, there you go. I think I was thinking of Oliver McCall. Livingston Bramble, that guy fought for fucking ever after his best days and things of that nature. And you never know what they always have that one little chance in there. Sherman Williams, you remember that guy?
Oh, the tank.
Yeah. He gave a lot of up and coming heavyweights a good night's work too. I think sometimes the commissions are a little more heavy-handed over here too, and they might keep people from plying their trade quite as easily.
I think as well, Marty Jakubowski, he had it nailed down. He ended up with a record of 119-7. He was from Indiana, and what he used to do was he would have like a load of fights in Kansas or Indianapolis or any of these kind of backwaters, and then he'd go over to like Germany to lose to Artur Gregorian, come back, have a load more wins in Kansas. Then he'd come over and fight Julio Cesar Chavez, get knocked out, went back over to Denmark to fight Dennis Holbach Pettersson. And in between these major fights, he was winning 9 or 10 in a row on the club circuit in like Kentucky or wherever.
Fuck yeah. That's a great way to do it. And why not? Like, I appreciate guys who like don't necessarily think they're ever going to win a championship, but they find a way to make a living in the ring. Right on, whatever way you do it. Those characters of the world, whether that Indian guy that from Oklahoma that finds his way getting knocked out every few fights after he goes and beats up on some random drunks around his town. George Tahima Babuyo or whatever. You know who I'm talking about, probably.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Fought Delvin Rodriguez. I like these characters. That's what I kind of love about boxing, because there's these guys who fight 170 fucking times and never win a championship, but they're still part of the fabric of boxing. It's a cool sport.
Right. Any other business, boys? Are we happy enough to move on to the old Bellew?
Party on.
Let's do it. Let's go on to Bellew of the week for episode 516. Matty's still here. He's got nowhere else to go. Andy as well is with me. Steve. Danny Young's got nowhere else to go. He's trying his luck. No luck tonight. He's been turned down. He's with us. We're second best. We're happy enough to take it, Danny. If you're offering Bellew of the week, let's see who's going to play us in this weekend. A lot of the boys have sent me this one, actually. I'm not a big fan of impressionists. I think some of them are downright shit, to be honest, but fair play to the people who try. But this fella, whoever he is, was doing quite an accurate Frank Warren impression. So much so, I thought it was well enough to play us into the Bellew of the week this week.
Yeah, I think everyone's been very unfair to Tyson, saying he doesn't want to fight and never wanted it. We're moving the goalposts. It's not the case at all, yeah, it might put a couple of clauses in the contract. It's pretty standard stuff, the rematch clause, the no rematch clause, and of course we had the Santa Claus clause where the winner gets presents and every year, and the loser has to fuck off to the North Pole, and the Wolverine clause where Tyson's allowed to get 9-inch stainless steel metal blades surgically implanted into his hands. But that's pretty standard stuff, And it was U16 they didn't want that. They walked away, and that's why it was cancelled.
He's actually got it down to a T, that voice, eh?
The mystery of the fight not happening deepens, but that was quite a good one, Andy. Actually enjoyed that.
It's good, actually. I mean, he needs to do a music one now, actually, about the contract negotiations, Greedy Berle. I accept 70 Verde, no problem at all. It's been amazing to watch as well. I personally, as I say to you guys during the week, I'm not saying Fury's scared or whatever, that, but I don't think he was in camp for such a short date, to be fair. Somebody said that Sugar Hill was only meant to be here until the 28th of March for the OKOLIE fight, and then he was going back to America. So I doesn't really kind of like, if it's true, then it doesn't kind of tie in that Fury was going to fight on that date. Uncle Frank seems to be kind of slightly raging, I would say. You could read into it who he's raging with, I suppose. But it's just disappointing again that the fight that fans want to see is like Crawford against Spence. We waited years to get Floyd Pacquiao, and that man who's got this sorry ass dance, all this shit, man. It's just like A-side this and A-side that. The disrespect shown to Music Man is incredible, to be fair, Matt. Okay, we get that Fury is supposed to be the A-side and all that type of thing, but let's get it fucking straight. Fury ain't no A-side. He thinks he is, by the way. He ain't worth 500 million. That's what he was asking for, wasn't it? That's what he was wanting for the comeback, coming out of retirement, 500 million. What was it? It's got to be 70-30. Yep, we'll take that. No problem at all. No rematch clause. Yep, no problem at all. But however, if there's a rematch clause, I want to have 70-30. No, man, you're fucking raging. Just take it or leave it, midget, pussy, rabbit, all this type of shit, man. Shit house, what we want to throw in there. The usual stuff, man. We've heard it all before.
He's a shit house.
Yep. Whilst us, the fans, are fucking shafted again. If it wasn't look, I'm not saying there's no blame on each side of the fence here, right? And everybody's probably got to blame in that. But I think you can say, look, each side's walked away, which is factual. But at the end of the day, if you feel like you're getting fucked about and you've got a short fuse or you've got a short window, you're like, listen, fuck them off, let's go somewhere else. And then they can hang on to their hat onto that. Now, if Tommy Fury come out and say what he said, I mean, dude, this is the guy who ducked fucking Jake Paul twice before he actually fucking fought him. And he's out here telling us that Tyson hasn't like ducked the fight. I'm not saying he's ducked the fight, but he's not taking it on the date that was agreed. I don't think he's in camp, a full fighting camp for a championship fight against an elite fighter, right? He needs a wee bit kind of longer time, and I thought it was kind of a tight deadline anyway, but it's no happening. We're fucked again, and the fallout will be massive as usual. But I'm staying out of this time because I was fatigued after Floyd against Pacquiao, and the way this shit's going to go, man, it'll be exactly the same. And that's exactly the same how Spence Crawford went. We'll be waiting years for that one.
Oh no, there's rumors that that's happening, Andy. There's fucking rumors it's back up and going for June 17th.
Well, we'll wait and see. Look, it's one of these things. We'll wait to see what it happens. If it happens, if they're in the ring, that's when it's going to happen. But yeah, we're just fucked again, mate. It's okay. We've had these lower tier cards to keep us interested. Decent fights. We've had some good fights this year, man. But we want to see the big fights, the transcendent fights of the sport.
Garcia versus Tank is still happening.
Yep, great.
Yeah, I suppose But at the same time, mate, we need the big fucking the flagship division. Fuck's sake, man. You've had all these talks. The thing is, well, like with Fury and all that, right? And again, it's not a kind of slight idea, but Fury knew about the kind of like the issue with Wilder. Remember the legal case they had them have that third fight.
Yeah.
Yet they strung us along with the Joshua situation for how long? Over a year. And they fucking, they let Eddie do all the talking, let him fuck himself up, trip himself over, which was great to see, fantastic to see. But then they knew about the clause. I think it was October time the previous year that was going to. Oh, it's just a whole fucking mess, man. If there's no one thing, it's the other. And I just don't think they could maybe even accept. See if Usyk was to win the fucking fight. Think about it. He'd be one of the first independent boxers since when? Ray Leonard to become world champion.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
There's a point, by the way, because Usyk is independent. He's got no clauses to anybody. He's a free agent as such, so to speak. And if he was to win the fight, man, he would be outside of the sphere. The sphere of influence would be outside looking in, basically. Frank, Eddie, BBC, all those guys, and that. I'm like, fucking hell, really. What I'm saying. So I think it's maybe their way now to maybe try and fragment the belts a little bit in that as well.
I'm looking at it as a positive because this is just one less pay-per-view I have to buy in the next 6 weeks.
He's so selfish, Matty.
Yeah, well, I keep the sport going with my money.
Well, as Mark Stanton says, it's never happening. It will be in Saudi when the money is ready.
The
thing is, Saudi apparently wanting the dealings with you know who about you know what. And who's still advising you know who about you know what?
Quit talking about my mom, you fuck.
You know what I'm saying? Aye.
Well, according to Frank, it's really simple, Usyk. Go fight OKOLIE, go fight Hrgovic. See what you earn if you don't fight Tyson. Frank getting animated. He loves to get animated these days. Doesn't he? The old blood pressure's through the roof. He wants a...
you think he's pissed off at Tyson as well at the same time because he's losing a payday there as well, Uncle Frank.
Yeah. Dev's been on it. He said this would mean we see a fight between the two best heavyweights in the world when they're talking about Tyson Fury against Joe Joyce. He loves a troll, doesn't he, old Dev?
Yeah. Team players, Dev.
Yeah, I know. He knows what he's doing. He listens in as well. Shout out to Dev. Hit the like and subscribe, Des. Des as well. Dev too, if you're listening. Holt over on the Patreon, and Dominic alerted me to this one. There he is, our mate, turning up at the weigh-in.
Monster. I've seen them coming in too.
Was he Hoseas? Wasn't there? He is for the first time in the US. Surprised they let him in, to be honest. WBC ambassador. Why wouldn't you want him as an ambassador of your company?
He came in the fucking diplomatic bag. That cunt. Need to put him through airport security.
Climbed over the wall,
dude. I'm just happy that someone was able to find something else for him to do after Harry and the Hendersons.
He's a state, isn't he? Oh dear. Anyway, we're talking estates. Shane Rob's not here to enjoy this one. Look at this. For a fight poster, Vienna Boxing Championship. Ready for a bit of the old ultra boxing. It's a WBF, not a world title fight, Andy. A WBF eliminator. At light heavyweight, Harry Strikes against Marco Mononen. When's it start? It's the 25th. It was last night, apparently. I'm not sure what happened here.
I'll tell you what, man. Look at the sponsors on that thing in sheet, man. It's like a fucking Swedish football team's football strip. Look at it, man.
Pure LED. Garage boxing.
WBF title. I wouldn't be surprised. And an eliminator too for WBF title. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these sponsors tattooed on the back of these fighters' backs, possibly. That,
Holly shirt, maybe. Post-terminal. Terminal sounds about right.
Garage boxing.
Harry Strikes is a pretty decent porn name, honestly. If I can neglect to remember that one.
Get in there. RBO titles on the line as well. The Royal Boxing Organisation. I think
Oh,
our thief Daniel won that one, didn't he, back in the day? So they are royalty. Anyway, it gets
World
better.
Boxing League.
Here we are. What about John Clark? This is the way to promote a show. The Statement, Friday the 17th of March. It was on, streamed live on BBTV. No messing about with this guy. Forget about the boxers. He's got the waitresses on the fight poster. the Brawl Babes.
He's even got Ali Drew and Barry Jones on it. Barry Jones, that well-known sex icon, you know, sex symbol.
That's one way to do it, boys. Never mind. Forget about the fights. Stick the ring card girls on the poster.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, the statement. That's quite the statement.
Some jabs, though, eh?
Oh, it certainly is. Prince Patel and Isaac Warrior Low are going back and forwards on each other. Isaac Warrior Low, this was going on from last week. He said, like I said, I would not give you the payday of the Fury card, but what I want to do is give you a very, very bad beating and put you back to being a little Insta and YouTube entertainer. Hashtag you fake. That's quite a good sentence there from Isaac. He said, just woke up this morning thinking I not heard anything from a little sausage. Probably thinking he can't get a payday. Now he went back making the fake belt. If you keep taking the pen, you might get to my weight, you pussy boy, and get some balls. And Prince Patel says, can someone please translate this? Fake warrior. your head was too far up Tyson's rectum to realise.
Aye, fucking Lowe's too busy, man, jumping out of fucking cupboards and scaring Tyson, man. You go walking with the gym, man, fucking fighting. And then, guys, what's he saying here? I would not give you payday for Fury card. Who the fuck's he even fighting the Fury's card, by
He's
the way?
handing out the paydays, man.
And by the way, does he forget what happened in his last fight? He got fucking punched the pillar at the post in his last fight.
Humalia says, speaking of marking up fake belts, how is your Super Bampton Championship coming along?
you feel like these... Sorry, that Isaac Lowe one, you feel like they should collect all of those and use them for a charity to help educate traveler families and shit like this. Like, this child had no chances in education, and look at how he speaks with only $5 a month. You know, I don't know. I think there's something here.
This is where you want to bring in Parish Fury for translation, but she's got enough problems on her hand now. She's got morning sickness for the 7th time to concern herself with.
Oh, another one, right? Okay.
Yeah, did you know this? Did you know here?
No, I don't think so.
No, number 7's in the oven, mate.
Fuck me. How can you be bothered with that?
Fucking
anyway, moving on. The Friday night card. I know you watched a bit of this, Andy. It was confirmed that former professional footballer and social media sensation Adiakin Fenwa will be in the ring and was the ring announcer. Oh my gosh!
What kind of fight was that for? Was that him with the Wycombe Wanderers, the big heavy set guy?
Yeah, the big massive guy who beat the big beast.
Shit, man. That was a fucking running monument running about. He was garbage.
He could hold the ball up,
was he the guy you had to have it written in his contract that he had to have the weekend off the Super Bowl? I'm sure it was him.
Is that
Somebody
right?
check that out. I'm sure it was something along those lines. Somebody check that out. Maybe it was WrestleMania, or I can't remember. It was something along those lines. The American sport, he had written in his contract he had to have the weekend off because he was attending it. I'm sure it was Super Bowl though.
Oh,
he was awful to him, man.
He's massive guy, wasn't he? I don't know how he got around the pitch, to be fair.
Fucking hell.
He's doing bits, all that, eh? Stefan was going in on boring Ben Shalom. He said Ben Shalom not only stated that Callum Simpson is from Sheffield, despite him being from Barnsley, but he also said he's ready for Felix Cash, who isn't even in the same weight class. Genuinely embarrassing.
Ben Shalom looks like he doesn't know what day of the week it is, man, sometimes.
He's fucking terrible, isn't he?
Yeah, I seen him last night walking into view after that Gomez fight. He started like clapping like a seal and just turned the cameras on him. He turned around and walked away.
He has the personality of a broken toaster, man. Who thought it was a good idea to put him onto the telly?
No, man, he's got a personality of a toaster that's live, jumped in a fucking bath by a human being inside it, man.
With Bean?
Oh. Well, Bean looks at him as a son, you know?
Oh, bring Bean. Bring Bean back, I say. Big John Fisher getting a nomination from you, Andy. He said, a lot of Eddie Hearn and Matchroom boxing haters around. But if everyone is being honest, Matchroom production of shows is by far the best. Hoping that Matchroom now being shown back on a Sky channel will push a few more fans back to watching Matchroom shows. The shows might not be the best this year, Andy, but the production is there. That's the main thing.
Oh, he's good lighting, mate. You know, empty arenas. You know, you could just see how they cut off the kind of like empty seats and that, or maybe human beings dressed as seats. I don't know what it is, to be fair. But I just thought, I was trying to think to myself, was there any Matchroom fighters on that card last night?
No.
No, so just wondering why we should get back to watching Matchroom shows on Sky. So big L for Big John.
Big L for Big John. He's taking the L's at the moment. Maybe he should fight for this title watch. What's this, Andy? You alerted me to this one, the Western Cape Championship.
Somebody said that Ryan Frag was meant to fight in that South African card, so I never saw the result. I don't know if it happened, but I stuck it on for like 5-10 minutes, and this shit appeared. So I know how I like a good title watch, mate. You know what I'm saying? So boxing South Africa. I don't know what belt it is, but I don't know if it's the Western Cape State title. Fuck knows, mate. But it looks. You remember the film Kickboxer?
Yes.
And when Tong Po sends a guy at the fucking hospital with a fractured spine, right, and he picks the belt up, and he's still got the boxing gloves on, and he rips the belt in half. Right, I'm saying to myself, what kind of shit is that? So that's what that fucking reminds me, man. That
it looks like something you'd order from Argos, isn't it? You know, for the kids for Christmas.
Some paper mache bollocks.
Oh, dear. They probably knocked 10 lumps of shit out of each other as well to win that title last night, whoever fought for it.
I don't know who it was, mate, to be fair. I didn't check the results either, to be fair.
Oh, dear. Well, maybe the winner could win this. Like Travis, not bad. Ebony Bridges collection so far. 6 more signed photos added this week. Look at that for the collection. Wonder where he's keeping that collection. Ooh,
Matty, where would you keep that collection, man?
Matty, Chicks with Dig, man.
Where would you keep it?
I don't think I would ever purchase anything of
your
like
bedroom
Andy.
ceiling, I bet you.
It's probably stuck to the ceiling, isn't it?
You see if you can fire toward it.
Then where would I hang the sex swing?
Hard drive checks this guy's a go. Checking hard drive. Oh, poor old Travis. They're having fun. Leave him alone. Craig Price. Great to meet you, Frank Bruno, the other day. Hashtag respect. Fucking Frank Bruno.
It's Dion Dublin.
Dublin. Good lad, Craig. I think he used to listen to the show, Craig, actually. Anyway, Johnny Scott got nominated by Ted earlier. OKOLIE is shit to watch. Okay, well, you become 6'6" with a reach of about 10 meters and see what you do when someone tries getting in range on your chest. Boxing Twitter is proper div central. Well, he's right about that last bit on there.
Oh, he's without doubt right, mate. But
but the rest of it,
it's a massive Bob. You say, mate. Yeah, it was just reading the match report was enough, mate. The fight report, sorry. It was enough, you know.
That's what it drive you to drink. You threw this one in. It's like fucking Bugsy Malone. It's press pass Paul says, man, you couldn't find him more sinister 40 if you could, eh? Look at him, man. It just looks like proper Frankie Carbo fucking mafia style. Doesn't it, eh? I don't think it's missing a fucking Tommy gun. Good stuff. Right, so final one from me, boys. Canelo's fighting John Ryder soon, but the haters are gathering as usual. There's always these bitter bastards in the sport, isn't there? Always trying to put people down all the time. So negative. Just trying to slate Canelo for being a drugs cheat. Why don't they just leave him alone, the bitter bastards?
It doesn't really matter how long he's banned for. His reputation's finished in the sport. He's a great fighter, but who knows how long he's been cheating for. Should he be banned longer? Yeah. Should he be financially penalised? Absolutely. Like any crime, if there's no punishment, it's going to just encourage people to commit them. So if you're a young fighter and you're thinking about doping in the sport, and you see Canelo Alvarez just get a 6-month fine with no financial penalty, I'll give it a go. I'll run the risk. I'm a Canelo and Eddie Reynoso fanboy, obviously, and I'm just in awe of Canelo Alvarez. I'm thinking, how good is this fighter? He can't be beaten.
I'm not sure who put that together, but fair play. It was called Before and After the Canelo Alvarez money.
Oh my god.
He's class, and he more faces than the town hall clock.
Oh Jesus Christ, man! He would lick any arsehole if it generated cash for him, man. You obviously, if you look at the profits he's just posted there, man, doing well financially and sexually as well, by all accounts.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, he's just we'll never forget that. Remember, he's got the picture on the mantelpiece in the house where Canelo gave him a cuddle from behind. And he's sitting down. I was like, oh my god, man, the guy's proper love. So I think he might be batting for the wrong side a wee bit as well. I think Eddie.
Why not? He's loving life, Matty. That's all the ones I've got this week. I mean, any nominations from you, please?
Oh, I think if you don't give Kenny Bayless one, you'd be remiss.
Yeah,
So let's give Kenny one. I frankly, I mean, I already went through it. I just think that one's hard to beat, and I know we try to keep it the lighthearted stuff on this, but fuck, that's one of the most clearly biased performances I've seen from a referee in a very long time.
I like the way Bailey stands off and he puts the little hands up, doesn't he? Like, have you ever seen that thing that he does? He stands back and he puts his hands up like Steve Willis.
He's got his arse sticking out of the back and that. He's kind of like getting like a fucking like Donald Duck, kind of like quacking out the face and that. Hello.
Wonder if he's Jerry Rice's dad or Johnny Rice's.
Jerry Rice. All right.
No, he's
the big ass.
Jerry Rice is about the same age as Bayless.
Who was the guy? Who was the general manager at Chicago Bulls? What was his name?
Phil Jackson?
No, the other one. The team general manager, the wee guy.
Oh God, I don't remember.
Doesn't matter. It was Jerry something. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Jerry Adams. Any from you this week, Andy?
Well, one for Jermaine Franklin for putting in that lawsuit. Practically a week to go. I'm not going to detail it, so I'll put one in for that. Callis Erland actually after the London Arthur fight. I don't know if anybody caught it, but he was like, he's like talking after the fight, and he's talking about world title fight next for London Arthur. It's going to be on Channel 5, and I'm like, I'm racking my brain here. I'm saying to myself, who the fuck's he going to be fighting on Channel 5 for a world fucking title? And then they dropped the fucking wee golden nugget, the IBO world title, Steve, one of the big five.
Yeah, love it.
So I don't know who's going to be fighting for it, but Callie says he's now the mandatory challenger for the vacant title. The fucking shithouse.
This one.
The fucking shithouse cunt, my mandatory challenge for the vacant
He's
title.
class, isn't he?
What a cockfag, man. Fucking hell.
Man, he fucking desperate.
I've got one for Anthony Joshua. In an interview, I don't know who it was with again, it was obviously kind of building up to this Franklin fight. He asked the question to one of the interviewers, who did Muhammad Ali fight in his 22nd fight? Right? He says, you couldn't even name who Ali fought in his 22nd fight. So I'm kind of like racking my brains. This is really about the time he fought Liston or Floyd Patterson.
Yep.
And so as Danny Robinson picked up on it, he says Liston was his 20th and 21st, and then Patterson was his 22nd, I believe. Old Femi thought he was being smart. Always check box right, Anthony. Franklin, Patterson. So one for Anthony Joshua there, mate, as well. And obviously one for the judges for the Colbert card. And there was another shocking decision. Michael Gomez. And no, for the way Gomez acted, by the way, is unanimous. Yeah. Look at Twitter, man. Every person thought he lost that fight, and his attitude after the fight stunk. And then Colbert as well, man. So
and Gomez in the weight, pushing your man in the weigh in as well. He's definitely not adopted, is he, Gomez?
No, that runs the family. You can see the old man. The old man is the only person I've seen bring Ricky Burns to the point of actually calling him an English bastard, right? Because he was like raging that day. And I remember Ricky saying, he's no fucking coming up here, right? And acting the big fucking man. I'll see that cunt fucking next week. I tell you what, Ricky gave him a fucking beating, by the way.
Oh, Danny says, are we getting a breakdown on the AJ fight next week? Maybe a mental breakdown. Yeah, I don't know. I never thought about doing a post-fight pod. That's how little the fighters registered to do, mate. No, I don't think I'm going to bother doing a post-fight pod, maybe. Oh, a breakdown from the doctor. Yes, that's
what if he gets knocked out, though?
Well, yeah, well, maybe.
Or get beat.
No, I'll think about that during the week, actually. I hadn't considered doing a post-fight pod. We usually do for AJ. So I might end up doing that. If it drops in the week, you'll know we've decided behind the scenes to do that. Yeah, the doctor, Joseph Ajayo, did one. I put it up on the YouTube channel a few months ago. He hasn't done a recent one, but I'm not going to get back in touch with him, I don't think. Maybe after the fight, we'll throw one in for you. Sorry, I understand what you mean now. Anyway, back to Belly of the Week. Everyone's thrown in their picks. Let's go through them quickly. So we had Frank and the Frank impersonator, which was very good as well. Dev Sarni getting nominated. That scruffy bugger as well. WBF light heavyweight title. The Brawl Babes, liking a bit of them. Prince Patel and Isaac Warrior Low going in on each other. Adiak and Fenwa. Ben Shalom getting a nomination there. Big John Fisher, the Western Cape title. Ebony Bridges, OnlyFans. Meeting Frank Bruno. Johnny Prescott getting nominated. Demetrius Salita as well. And AJ right at the end. Plus Eddie talking smack and licking Canelo's ring. Who are you going for this week, Matthew?
Bayless.
Kenny Bayless, of course, as well. disgraceful performance from him. What about you, Andy? Who are you going for?
I really want to go for the judges in that Chris Colbert fight. But what was the one that, if it was real, it was a fucking corker, actually. One of the earlier ones there, mate. Sorry, I just missed your kind of rundown there.
What are you thinking here? Okay, so we had Frank, obviously. We had him, the homeless guy. The WBF title. The Ball Babes. Patel and Isaac Lowe. Adi Akinfenwa. Ben Shalom. John Fisher. Title. Ebbs. OKOLIE. Salita. And AJ.
I'm going to go for AJ, actually. Try to be smart there, actually. He's done his research. For a man who's a big fan of Ali and I didn't even know who he fought, I'll go for Joshua.
I'm going for the guy, although I think this is a troll, because I'm sure Craig Peary used to listen to the pod. I recognise that name, so I wonder whether he's trolling there. do you remember a few years ago, Andy, the guy who thought he'd met Rigo? He put up a photo of himself. He was a Welsh guy with some random African guy. And he'd go, "Oh, Rigondo, thanks very much for the photo." And Rigo was like, "That's brilliant, my friend, but that's not me." And your man was like, "Oh, fair enough. I was proper fucking wasted last night."
Just doing it as a joke and that,
Yeah.
Probably.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm going for him. I'm going for Craig Peary. I think that was a good one, whether he's on the receiving end or he's giving it out there with him and Frank Bruno. Congratulations. You are Bellew of the Week winner for episode 516. And shout out to our super chatter, our lone soldier tonight, which was Michael Thompson, who threw in a couple of quid earlier. He's also in the Boxing Nutters Messenger group, as is Martin Lithgow, who joined us earlier on. Shout out to him. That is everything we've got for this week. Matty will be back in the red hot seat for episode 517. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the like button if you want the show in May. So from now till the end of April, if we get over 100 likes every week, we'll do a little call-in show for you as well. What did Kenny Bayless do? Oh, nothing. I think it was in the Terry Norris-Lewis Santana fight, maybe, Chuck Crew. I think we were nominating him for that. Maybe you'll get to watch Benavidez against Plant sometimes next week. We might do a post-fight pod for AJ Franklin. I hadn't considered it, but I'll chat with the boys about that off the air. I've been Steve Wellings anyway. Thank you to Andy Patterson. Thank you to Matty DJ Leonardo and Rapping Rob Kelly as well for joining us right at the top of the show. We love you all. We'll see you all again same time, same place next week for episode 517. And bye.
We'll never forget.
I think that's good.
Go to Adam move!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Stiltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't. I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love Boxing Asylum. It's as simple as that.